and I can't wait to share this experience with them.
Chantal and her son have won a behind-the-scenes Wild Earth experience at the magnificent and beyond Ngala tented safari camp. The prize includes a 3-night stay and a chance to sleep out in the unique Ngala treehouse.
I would like to thank Wild Earth for making this dream come true, and I encourage everybody to subscribe, to become an explorer, and stand the chance to win these amazing prizes, and so much more.
For this month, we have a brand new prize. You could be jetting off to Tualu in the Kalahari for a 3-night stay at the luxurious Motsi Lodge. Open to all Wild Earth explorers who have signed up before the end of January 2021. Terms and conditions apply.
Looks like it's a very difficult climb because every time it tries to climb, the ground is breaking, so it slides down. But it's the only one. Look at that. That is a call of desperation with a cub. It's like, what are you doing, mommy? Oops. Oof.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning and welcome on board the Sunrise Safari, coming to you live from Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands, where this little herd of impala seems to have survived the night, seems to have survived the lions. And we heard some contact calls a little while ago of some lions, so we're going to see if we can find where they've gotten to. We found where their tracks came a little bit this way. It seems to have cut through to the middle parts of Djuma. And Tristan is out and about. He's found leopard tracks as well. He's found a female leopard track. So we have Tristan out in Djuma with myself, Tess and Sebastian out in Ngala, Maurits and Craig in Swalu, and Taylor with Gerrit, of course, in Pridelands. And we welcome you on board your live African safari. Good morning again, everybody. Welcome aboard my vehicle. We are just moving along as we go because the lions are making noises, which means we might be able to catch them still in action. My name is Steve, joined by Paul on camera, and as always, very excited to have you with us. As always, we are live and interactive this morning. We'd love to hear from you using the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter. Throw your questions in at the YouTube chat stream at the all-important FC, and it is a marvelously cool 21 degrees Celsius this morning. 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Sorry, just go ahead. I think Tristan's found something. Well done. Of course he has. Well, Tristan asked me a few moments... Well done, bud. Enjoy. Tristan asked me a few moments ago, he found a leopard track in amongst where we're trying to find the lions. He said, do you mind if I follow these leopard tracks? I said, sure, go for it. That was about 37 seconds ago. 37. And guess what, everybody? Yeah, he's found it. So, leopard, yeah. The buffalo have come back in. The lions would have picked up on this. So we're going to try and figure out where these lions have gone. I didn't hear the noises, but the dam cam heard the noises and Tristan heard them. So we are going to see if we can figure out where this lion pride has gone, and maybe they are hunting some buffalo. But let's send you just around the corner over here to my good friend Tristan, whose leopard search has been quite successful. Well, what an epic way to start our morning. As you can see, we've got the Princess Tlalamba. This was a very cool track. We kind of came round because we were trying to just close the block out for Steve and his lions. And I was heading roughly kind of towards the hyena den, and we found a very fresh track for this female leopard. And we followed the track a little bit, smelt exactly where she had scent marked it, and it was pungent and strong. And then drove and kind of followed the tracks up the road, and then found her sitting on this fallen over tree. The problem is she's now come down off the tree, which is not ideal because the area we're in is super thick. So I'm not sure how long we're going to be able to keep her here. We know how much this cat can mission. Also, the lions, I'm pretty sure I heard them sort of contact calling to the... not too far from to the west of where I am now, which means that, you know, I don't think she's going to head that way. I think she's going to turn more to the kind of north and up towards Quarantine rather than carrying on in a sort of westerly fashion. That's if we haven't lost her already. How does she disappear like this? She's not there, and I can't see her already. Might have been a very, very brief glimpse of her. It's so thick in here. Didn't see if she exited out or if she stayed. Who knows? All right, so let me introduce myself, though, before we kind of carry on. My name's Tristan on camera. I've got Theo, or Theodore, who's kind of was the one that actually spotted her in the tree. If it wasn't for him, I don't know if we would have seen her. He was able to kind of pick her up and see that she saw her tail hanging down. So I think we have to give him a bit of credit today. I wonder if she didn't loop back towards the road. And you can see what I'm talking about by saying that it is thick here. It's near impenetrable fortress, this little section. I don't know where you... Tlalamba, honestly. Alright, I'm going to try and just see if I can find her in here somewhere. And it's not going to be very easy. Otherwise, we'll just try and go around. She is heading towards quarantine, I'm pretty sure. So we'll just try and head that side and wait for her. In the meantime, though, let's send you across to Taylor so she can say good morning.
Well, let's hope it's a day filled with cats. Sorry, mid-sneeze, cough there. Apologies. We've stumbled across a collision of two young male lions just laying up in the grass today, which is quite cool. We're just keeping our distance because I don't know if I've seen these lions before. But we'll get hopefully a closer view. You can see they are particularly far away from us today. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Gert, and it's going to be one of those days again where I stumble on all of my words. But we are here at Pridelands Conservancy, which is part of Baluli Game Reserve, as well as the Greater Kruger National Park. And it's a lovely day. I think it might be the last of the lovely days that we receive for the next few. Now, unfortunately, I'd love to reposition and go a bit closer, but again, this entire area is sodic. It doesn't really look like it because the grass is deceiving and covered most of the surface. It's just some sections that are exposed, but I know that once a lot of this grass disappears, it's not a great area. There's a lot of erosion, so we're just going to keep off of it, but we'll stick with these boys for a little bit, and hopefully they move into a better spot. Now, it's obviously quite difficult for you to have a good look at these lions for now, but I will try and reposition, maybe look for another gap further ahead on the road. They aren't very old. I'm sure you can all see that. They are young male lions. Now, we have seen two young male lions before. Many months ago, we saw them quite regularly. One of them unfortunately had a bad injury to its, was it its paw? It was its front right paw. There we go. And he wasn't looking very well. He was quite a scrappy looking lion. We haven't seen them for ages. I don't think that these are the same lions after seeing these boys. I know that Mike saw them not too long ago, maybe about 10 days ago or so, or almost 2 weeks ago. He had a quick glimpse of them, but it was difficult to sort of gauge. But I don't think these are the same boys. Now, it wouldn't be very uncommon for us to see young male lions moving into this area, is because they also leave the pride, normally about 2.5, 3 years old, maybe even a bit longer, depending on how much pressure is put on them by the dominant male lions in whichever pride that these boys come from. So that just sort of varies. But then they form a very nomadic life. So they move around lots and lots and lots, trying to sort of next their place in the world. Well, for the next 2 or so years, they're going to spend their lives dodging other dominant male lions, which is quite a tough thing to do. So I don't know if they're going to really stay here. Yesterday afternoon, we did come across the two big male lions. They are enormous. When we got to see them out on the road, they actually walked right past my car. I can't tell you how, sure, it's quite a thing to have two big male lions walk right past you when you have no door. You really get to see how tall they are and how muscular and long their bodies are. So these guys have been laying low and staying very quiet, because if there's even a whisper from them, those bigger males are going to come on in and they're going to get a bit of a hiding. So this is the life now, the silent life, just trying to eat what they can before they before they have to move, because it's inevitable that those bigger males will come down and do a loop and chase them on out. And maybe they'll be lucky if they head up towards the sort of southern section of Pridelands. We don't really see many lions around there. And it's not obviously the best area in terms of prime property for those predators, because there is a fence line running on the south. Remember, we're right outside Hoedspruit, which is awesome. So sometimes when I'm at home, I hear the lions. Not sometimes, I often hear the lions and hyenas and elephants from my bedroom, which is really cool. So we need that up there, and then everything to the north and east is all open pretty much until you get to Mozambique, which is very cool. So they won't go as far as Mozambique. That'd be amazing. That's probably not going to happen. But you get what I'm trying to talk about. He's got a little bit of darkening on the mane now that he's just shuffling around. So maybe they are, just by looking at them, I would say between 3 and 4 years old. Maybe closer to 4. Especially that mane is darkening just slightly. They don't look too hungry either. It looks like they've got something in their bellies. Maybe they snatched up a little impala. Right, off you go across to Ngala to see what Tess is up to.
Good morning and welcome to and beyond Ngala. It is very chilly here this morning. I've got my fleece on and you can see there is a lot of cloud in front of me building up. So we're actually expecting rain from 2 o'clock today. It is quite a dark sky, and even behind where my vehicle is driving, there's an even bigger bank of cloud coming in. So we know that we're expecting some pretty serious weather in the next few days, starting from today until next week, Thursday, believe it or not. But what I'm doing is trying to keep warm. One, I've got some coffee with me, and I'm driving along the riverbed. So my name is Tessa. I'm going to be your guide at and beyond Ngala this morning. Behind the camera we have Sebastian, and we are going to be looking for the wild dogs this morning. We did have a look for Makoti male already. We know where he is, but he's in an area where we actually can't see him right now, but we know he's there. So we're definitely going to go back and have a look a little bit later if he decides to come out a little bit more into the open. But for now we're driving along the riverbed in the stretch where we think the wild dogs may have disappeared to, because we saw them on the eastern boundary again at night, and we think they may have come back in to and beyond Ngala. So it's a very exciting day, and it's always a good day starting off knowing where Makoti male is. Can never be a bad day in the bush. So we're not exactly sure when the rain will come. It's expected at 2, but hopefully it's not too bad, so that we can come back out again this afternoon as well. But for now, it seems like there is definitely weather coming in. So this is one of my favorite stretches of riverbed. It's an area where we know there are often lions, leopards, and elephants. So you can see there's a lot of tall trees around. So I'm scanning through all of these trees looking for any signs of a leopard that may be having a snooze. And this is the area of Nyala female, and this is the area actually where Makoti male used to frequent as well. So we'll see if, hopefully he actually takes back the territory. How exciting would that be? Have him come back onto Ngala permanently. So I'm going to keep going along this road that's next to the riverbed and see if we can find any of the cats for you in the meantime, and we'll send you off to someone else.
Welcome back to Djuma. We are now on the southern section of Djuma. The Telematis all went into Arathusa, so just south of where you were last with me. They all went straight over towards the west, and it seems like the buffalo
all that side. And we had some tracks where I mentioned before, but that was obviously where they'd been turning a bit, and then they went straight across. The lions picked up on those smells, they followed them. That goes over towards Arathusa Dam, I believe. So we've informed the stations of the west about that, and well, I'm sure they'll have some luck. So we're going to head slowly down. We're now checking the southern boundary. There were reports that Tandi came back in last night, so we're just going to see if we can figure out where those tracks are. But I also heard a little something on the radio from a distance on Chitwa about wild dogs. Now, we're quite far out, so I don't get a very clear reception. So once we get a bit closer, I'll find out about the dogs, and then, well, I don't know about you, everybody, but I would love to spend some time with wild dogs this morning, as Tess is trying to find you some as well. Wild dogs any day of the week. Or would you like to see some wild dogs this morning? If anyone out there would not like to see wild dogs, I'm terribly sorry, but we're going to go see if we can try. Bearing in mind they can move, and they might be in an area where you can access them at. So holding thumbs and fingers and toes for the ability to see some wild dogs now. But at the same time, we're doing a boundary patrol. We know what's happened on the west. Check what's happening on the south. And if we do find any relevant tracks, it's a good time to follow. So for those of you who don't know about Boundary Patrol, we check in the borders to see if anything's come in or gone out, and that helps us to then put more effort in, or to put less effort into the tracking of an animal. So we're going to head over towards Chitwa and see what we can find.
Sure, we just managed to catch a gap as these boys are up now and on the move, but now we finally have a decent view, which is really, really cool. So again, I always ask you to take screenshots because it's amazing. I can't take any pictures, unfortunately, so while we're live, I really do rely on the screenshots, as sometimes it is the magic moment when we actually get to see them out and in the open. Remember to hashtag Wild Earth so that we can all see them a bit later. They're just going... There's the next one. I was about to say they're just going out of frame, but they're not. Here they are. So that's cool. And then here they come, just on the other side of all of the sickle bush and dead knob thorns and things. So now you can start to also see how eroded the site is. Minamu, they are quite handsome. This is why I'm also reluctant to say that they're the same lions from the last time. Just while you were away from us, I jumped onto my mobile device to see if I had any pictures stored, but I did clear it not too long ago. And the last time that I saw the other two younger males that we have seen before was after I cleared my phone, so it's a bit difficult to tell. But like I said, one really had super tatty ears. There is another fella here, the chap that's closest to us. He's got tatty ears, but it doesn't look the same. And I also thought that maybe the other boys were slightly older. But I could be mistaken. That was such a long time ago. So I'm going to rely on you guys. I think what I'm going to have to do, unfortunately, is turn around now. So we're going to have to go up and around. Let me quickly do that, just so that we can try and keep up with them. There are obviously other vehicles here on safari with us. So let's see. The students are also still learning, so we might just have to be patient. They haven't learned how to drive as well yet and make quick maneuvers. What is the funnest part about becoming a safari guide? Being in the vehicle is very daunting, like extremely daunting, and yes, it takes some time. Now, Gary, you've inquired about how long will these lions stay together. So these males will probably stay together their whole lives. So it's interesting. Obviously, the females in a pride will stick together, and they have their little family group. And if there are any males within a pride, once they get to a certain age, maybe 2.5, 3 years old, as I was saying, sometimes a little bit later than that, they'll leave together and they form coalitions. See if they just pause here. They're going to sit down. Yes, there we go. Oh, wow, gorgeous. So they're going to form a coalition and they're going to stay together, like I said, probably for the rest of their lives. Obviously, they might even have another lion join up with them. That's not an uncommon thing to do. The more lions you have in your coalition, the more chances you have of taking over a better area. So male lions don't just stick with one pride. They form a territory, and they might have 2 or 3, or again, if you've got quite a big coalition, you might have 3 or 4 different prides within your territory that you'll visit. It's a lot of hard work, constantly having to protect the prides to make sure that their offspring survive so that their genetics can continue, and then of course to also protect the prides from intruding males. And big males will chase out young males like this because they might pop in between the different prides. So yeah, who knows where they're going to settle? There's ample place for them to go. I mean, I would love it if we could have some youngsters living here, like I said, maybe the southern section of the reserve. There's all the space. It's not a lot of space, though. It's not a massive area. But if they just laid low, they could definitely hide about here. I haven't really seen any of the big males doing any sort of big loops around to these southern sections, all the way into sort of Buffelshoek, not Buffelshoek, north of the Sabi Sands. It's just an area that's called that on Pridelands where all the buffalo like to hang around, lots of mud wallows. It's a good place for them. It's also something we don't really see. We don't see the lions here hunting buffalo often. I mean, we've had one sighting with 2 male lions feasting on a buffalo, and it was the other 2 that we were telling you about, and then there were 2 older ones that came on in and chased them out eventually. Let's actually go back and look at my photos. I wonder if it is the same 2 that we saw yesterday. It'll be interesting. Unfortunately, you don't really have any pictures of those male lions. I think I managed to get 1, but I'll try and have a look. It just requires lengthy periods of time of sitting and staring at my computer. Kogel, as we watch them sort of play in the grass, it's going to be difficult to see their manes properly now. It's just them playing. They're going to maybe start roaring, which I thought was brave. So their manes will be fully grown around, well, their manes sort of continuously get a little bit bigger, but normally around 6 years old. They've got really good, decent manes. Their manes have creeped over their shoulders and down underneath their forelimbs, and they get sort of these tufts of hair on their elbows. So you can see that they're still quite young. But there's some darkening. Wait, down into the little drainage line. You see how distinctly deep that is. We're going to have to try and keep up with them now and hopefully get a view. So maybe closer to 4 now that they're up and moving. This is the first, you're getting the first views of them as I am right now, which is quite cool. So they're just going up the road. We're just crossing one of the big main roads in this area now. Hopefully we're going to catch another glimpse of them. Let's see. There they are. They actually are nice looking lions. Just pausing briefly. Oh, there we go. You can see they actually do have little tufts of hair on the back of their elbows. So maybe just over 4. But manes heavily depend on genetics as well. I've seen almost maneless lions in the Lower Zambezi Valley. Not quite maneless, but they look like 2-year-olds kind of thing. But these boys, they were very, very old. They've been around for a long time. They've now heard impala snorting, which are just up and to the left. Now, lions, if you come around to the right, if you keep going into zebra clearing, there's lots of zebra there and impala. But those impala have now spotted you. Oh, shame. Anyways, so what I was saying is that manes are heavily dependent on genetics. So some lions get really big, beautiful black manes, and others don't. Now they're deciding what they're going to do next. You can't walk straight down the road towards the impala. That's not going to work. Right. I think we'll try and stick with these boys and see what they get up to. Off we go back across to Tess, who's now also sitting with some felines.
So I came around the corner here at and beyond Ngala into a few members of the Birmingham Pride. And they are relaxing on this nice cool morning, but this young male seems to be very intrigued with the impala's alarm calling behind me. Look at that face. He's actually coming so close, I don't know if we'll get him. I'll try. So he looks... Oh, he's actually just laid down next to the back tire. So this is one of the Ross... We actually haven't seen the Ross males in a few days. And there's the young male's little sister sitting right next to her dad, just peeking over his shoulder. And this is the more dominant of the two Ross males. He's the darker one. And she's actually watching those impalas because I think she can see them just from behind our vehicle. I think it's very cute though that she's sitting with her dad. So you can see he's got quite a dark mane. I know that Taylor was talking about lions possibly having no manes and it being genetic, and that's exactly the case. We have seen a few male lions that hardly have any manes. He's got a particularly dark mane, and if you compare his mane to his brother is a lot more blonde, and his mane is not as lush, not as full. It's quite a bit smaller. But you can see this beautiful male has a lot of scarring on the face. The youngster has definitely seen something. She's sitting up now. I wonder what she's hearing. She's actually now watching her brother move. He's moving back over. He's lost interest in the back of the car. So in this little pride, we have this youngster and his sister, who are around 8 months old now, the Ross male, who's the father, 2 older lionesses of the Birmingham Pride, and 2 sub-adult lionesses. So they're not quite 3 years old yet, but they will be soon. And they're actually in quite a big clearing at the moment. There have been a lot of other animals around. Actually, on the way here, we spotted quite a lot of impala, wildebeest, zebra. And we really weren't expecting to find them because they're literally 50 meters away. Oh, you can see she's got very yellow teeth. So this is one of the oldest lionesses in the Birmingham Pride. She's very well experienced. Trying to groom herself. And a scratch. I wonder if she's maybe got a tick that's biting her there. You can see one of the other sub-adults coming over to investigate what she's doing. Oh, wow. You can see that difference in body size between the lioness that's lying down and the sub-adult that's now standing up. The sub-adult is still much more lean. She's got an overall smaller body size, and her neck is a lot thinner. But the lions and lionesses in this pride are incredibly large, so I'd be very interested to see how big that sub-adult lioness gets. She's actually contact calling. Chris, so lions will have a mating season, not strictly like you would have with things like impalas that mate particularly in May, but they do try and cycle up their estrus cycles with each other. So the lionesses will try and come into estrus at a similar time, and that's now in the beginning of the year because they like to give birth which is different to all of the herbivores that usually give birth in spring or summer. And so they like to give birth usually around May, and their gestation is only around 90, just over 3 months. That one's got a tick on its eyebrow. And so what they like to do is if all of them come into cycle at the same time, what it means is lions are one of the few animals that the lionesses will actually let other lionesses' cubs suckle. They'll let them have their milk, which is very unusual because not a lot of other animals will do that in the world. And that's that pride mentality, the mentality of the pride works together and everyone looks out for each other. So when they all have cubs at a similar time, it means there's more chance of those cubs surviving, and they can all help each other raise the cubs. So usually we would see them mating now within the next 2 or 3 months. But that being said, some lionesses have completely different cycles. We've got a lioness that has just given birth in this pride. We know she has a den site. And those little cubs, the two very... We've got another one in this pride that is actually still heavily pregnant, and another one that we think is pregnant. So sometimes they don't actually stick to giving birth in winter. It just depends on the body's natural cycle. A lot of the time what would happen is their cycle might change. If a new lion comes into the pride and takes over and he kills the cubs that are already here, those lionesses will come into estrus very quickly again to try and have cubs with a new male. And so that will change the yearly cycle as well. But everyone looks like they're starting to settle down. So I'm going to sit here with these lions and see, hopefully they'll get up and start moving a little later in this beautiful, cool weather. But I'm going to send you over to Steve.
Hey, firm. Behind Steve. Welcome back, and we are on Chitwa with some very feisty young male impalas. Now, everybody, we are currently in the lineup for, you guessed it, wild dogs. So we're just waiting here on Chitwa dam wall. The dogs are apparently right at the moment just very lying up, should I say, on the airstrip. These impalas are obviously unaware. So we're on standby 2, so it could be a little while still, but we're in the lineup, which means we are going to get to show you wild dogs. But it seems like everybody's interested because there's now a standby 4. What that means, everybody, is generally in a game drive sighting, depending on the sensitivity of the sighting, there's normally 3 vehicles. That's due to the fact that we don't want to overcrowd, over-influence, all those sort of things. There's many sort of constraints behind it. Obviously, some sightings people were restricted to, and sometimes to 1. And sometimes, in the case of cubs on their own, it will be called a negative sighting, which means no one is allowed to go there. Now, sometimes you might find those cubs, and then you can call it in and say, listen, I'm closing this area, don't come here. So we're a standby 2, which means that when one person makes space, the standby 1 can go, and then the next day we move to standby 1. Who's on 2 and 3? Thank you. Kelly, they are playing. They're still quite early days. The rutting season will start off in the next couple of weeks, so we'll start seeing proper impala. Proper, there we go. You can hear the thick knees flying off. The impalas move. So the rutting season will start. The proper season culminates when the females come into estrus in March, April. But the boys will start to develop their skills. Yes, that was very funny, wasn't it? Start to develop their skills. But the youngsters that we saw sort of playing with each other there were youngsters. They weren't fully grown yet. They're not the dominant males yet. You find them in the herds now. There were quite a few females together with the young males, so they're not yet fully mature. But you'll start seeing the segregation starting to happen. You'll start seeing the males completely isolated from the females, and the males forming these little bachelor groups where they start to compete and size each other up. And we have been upgraded to standby 1. Been in this position and situation many times before, everybody, as we wait to go to a game drive or to a existing sighting, and it's a nice time to just switch off, spend a few moments in silence while we listen to the birds, the hippos, and the water. Okay, I'll forgive the fact that my game drive radio is open, but I am in control of the standbys for the sighting, and while we wait for them to allow us to come in, we're going to send you over to Taylor McCurdy in Pridelands, who is still with her male lions.
Oh, that's very exciting, Steve. I hope that you managed to get in. We have also got an exciting situation on our hands. Now, if you just look at that lion, you can tell that something is up by his body language, and that's because there are impala, sorry, I'm going to try it up, and zebra quite far away from him still, you can see. So he's keen, but he has got a huge gap, a massive open area as his biggest hurdle this morning. Whether or not he's going to be able to creep down low enough and strategically use all these fallen trees, it's going to be quite challenging. Otherwise, he's literally going to have to leopard crawl, because we don't have that lovely tall grass now. We're back on zebra clearing, and this entire area is filled with this weird little shrub-like thing. I don't even know what it is, but it's a terrible plant. And he's going to have to drop down nice and low. So he's just staring at the moment. I don't know where the other lion has... Oh, there he is. Never mind. I know where the other lion is. He's just to the right and behind him. I don't know if you can see him, Kat. Also standing here, you get a very nice view of how big his mane is. There we go. Hi, boys. The lion on the right might be a little bit older than this one on the left. Maybe just. Sometimes that happens. They don't necessarily have to be from the same mother to form a coalition. It might be just from the same pride. Kayla, lion's vision is very good. It's one of their best sort of senses, but their eyes are designed very differently. Like our eyes. Their eyes are designed to pick up movement. So obviously we see all these different animals and they've got these beautiful markings on them. Those types of markings have various names. For example, a zebra has got beautiful disruptive markings. Some things like kudus as well, and inyala. They've got all these different kinds of markings that break up the solid silhouette of their body. So when they stand very still against a tree line, they can be virtually invisible. But as soon as they move, any movement, the twitch of a nose, the twitch of an ear, the swish of a tail, something like a lion or any of the other predators will be able to pick that up very, very quickly. Their vision at night time is far better than ours. I think it's about 8 times better than ours at night. But yeah, it's just really unbelievable. There's also elephants, which we can't see right now, but I suspect that they're going to pop out onto zebra clearings too, which will be epic. It will be interesting to see what happens then. Now, Gert was just telling me just before we went live that he saw this male last week. He said that scar on the nose is definitely the same one. So they've been around here for maybe not last week, but 10 days ago, hey? A bit long, yeah, 10 days ago. And so they have been around here, which is quite cool, just laying low. So they quite possibly have been into the corners of the reserve that we don't normally drive. I think that lion has now also spotted the elephants in the distance. You can see he's not focusing on the zebra and impala anymore. So now they need to weigh up the decisions. Are we going to stay here and try and hunt and just lay low? Are we going to move out of the way? Or I would just sit if I was a lion. I'd just kind of sit, maybe huddled up against a shrub. I don't think you can see the elephants now, but they are right there. Between those two trees, yeah, there we go. There's one elephant. Can you see it? Just creeping out of the tree line. I think it's a breeding herd that are in there. But you can see it's not long before they're going to pop out. Not uncommon to see so many different animals. Okay, the boys are on the move again. They are just sticking to the longer grass. They might even just lay down. There's one. Hello, boy. So that's a nice ID feature, right? That scar might eventually heal and disappear. I don't know how deep it is. That's the thing with scars. They don't always last forever. It depends on the depth of the wound. Looks like a big cut, maybe. Him and his coalition partner just got into a bit of a box over a carcass. It'd be quite easy for them to catch lots of impala lambs, but they need about 3 impala lambs each. Errol, yes, the elephants would most certainly chase the lions, 100%. Even though the lions in this area don't typically hunt elephants. I'm not talking about like a 5.5 ton, 6 ton elephant bull, but there's some prides of lions that have learned how to hunt elephants, which is very, very cool. These lions, however, are not going to hunt an elephant. I'm almost certain of that. I'll be very surprised if they do. They're more likely to go for something like an impala, a zebra, a wildebeest, a buffalo, something along those lines, waterbuck, kudu, you name it. The other prey species that we have here. Taking on Africa's giant is quite something, and experience definitely needs to be had, and you also need to be, I suppose, part of a super pride, because one lion on its own is really not, it's like a mosquito to a fully grown elephant. But elephants will chase all the predators. We watched a herd of elephants chase wild dogs, and it almost looked like the elephants were hunting the wild dogs. They had their trunks on the ground, and they were trying to sniff them out and chase them even further. So it was very entertaining. So he's still quite keen. I think what he's going to try and do is maybe go around back onto the road a little bit further east, and then try and head to the southern section of them, so just to the left of where the zebra were, and come in from that tree line, because the zebras aren't quite in the middle of the clearing. So I think he's really just weighing up his options. It would make sense if he goes up that way because he's got more cover. The wind is swirling at the moment. I'm just trying to feel while I'm in the vehicle. We're downwind of the zebra right now, so it would be better if he comes around to where we are as the lion, and then he's got the protection of the wind as well. Obviously, hiding your scent is the most important, but there is an impala that is looking that way. I think she's caught sight of this youngster. You can see she's standing right up. She's got her head pointed in the direction, ears are fixed and focused. I think she knows it's there. I think she's not quite sure just yet. Even look at her posture. Now she's starting to stiffen up. So if he is like sort of happy that she's spotted a predator, 100%, she'll probably start alarming. She'll start snorting, and then everyone around here will be alerted. So that lion needs to make sure that he doesn't make a move now, that he stands dead still. He might have to stay dead still for quite some time. and then hope that she just pops her head back down and starts feeding again. But you can see she hasn't alarmed anyone else just yet. There's another impala. Gone. What are you looking at? No, everybody's looking around. Zebra are very vigilant as well. They've got phenomenal eyesight. They're looking the other way. But it would be a great meal if they could bring down a zebra. It would be quite interesting because there's a hyena den that's not too far away from here. Sure, it's been a long time since I've last seen lions on a big kill. And Gert, those elephants that are coming straight towards us now in the distance at 12 o'clock, it is the same herd of elephants that I was just telling you about that chase the wild dogs. And that cow there in front with no tusks, this is a really big herd of elephants. She was the one that was actually leading the sort of charge and sniffing out the dogs and chasing them further, because she chased them for ages. I mean, the dogs ran away from them. Sorry, when I say dogs, I'm talking about the wild dogs, in case you've only just jumped onto the show now. So it will be quite interesting to see how this all plays out. Are they going to stick to the tree line? Are they going to come out into the open? Who knows? But luckily the lions are also downwind of the elephants, so I don't think that for the most part, I don't think that the elephants are going to pick up on their scent. So now it's only going to be if the elephants spot the lions. Yeah, so that's not too bad, but they rely more on their sense of smell. And with the lion standing dead still like that, I don't think the Ellies will see those lions. I think one is just laying down. There's not much action here right now. Like I said, that male lion has got a huge distance, or both of them a massive distance to cover before they even get anywhere close to those zebra and impala, and the elephants actually look like they're going to just stick to the tree line. There's just an aeroplane going over now. Probably just sit here for a bit and see how this all plays out. Sometimes these things can take hours, or sometimes they happen quite quickly, but off we go across. Steve has finally managed to get into the wild dog sighting.
Good morning, and welcome to the hounds on Chitwa Airstrip and a cheeky hyena that has probably been pushed into the bushes here. Can you see the hyena just on the right there? There's a hyena. It's on its own. I don't know who it is. There's a whole pack of wild dogs in front of it. So we're going to try and edge forward so we can get you a better view of these dogs. We don't have too much time, everybody, because as you can imagine, wild dogs being found is often generates a lot of excitement. Oh, there's a whole lot of hyenas. Looks like there's a standoff. We're just going to turn over to the side here so we can give you some space. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hyenas in total. And the dogs we're going to count. 15 dogs. Aren't they pretty? Here's some impala alarm calling in the distance, other side of the airstrip. Might work out for us quite nicely because we've just come in, there's space for one, and if this other gentleman leaves, the other person will come in, and that means there's 3 of us. There's no one else waiting to come in, so it could be beneficial for us. Okay, so this individual in front of me has got a collar directly in front of me. So, here in front of me at 1 o'clock, there's another vehicle. We're right here at the airstrip hangar. I'm sure someone will be able to tell us who this pack is. I don't know if I know them, if they are the Pungwe pack. The Pungwe 15, I think they are. But I don't know. Ah, thank you, James. James is on it. Okay. Dogs are on the move. Okay, this is going to happen. The female, that looks like a male that's just gotten up. And the doggies are going to move. And, well, we are going to try and follow them when they do move. It is often a very quick affair when they start to move and the hyenas are going, go get us some breakfast, dogs. 6 hyenas versus 15 dogs. Look at the attention. We saw the lions hunting yesterday and their attention was focused and stealthy. Dogs will also be quite stealthy for a period of time before they launch off into a very fast run, which is often happens. Oh no, you're going to go behind me, are you? Look at this. Hello, doggies. Come and walk past me and say hello. Oh, I love these guys. Love them to bits. Hello. Are you interested in my car, are you? Now let's see if they're going to give that hyena a hard time behind us there. Okay, here comes it. Old Scraggletooth over here is about to walk past. She's looking quite full. Maybe she's got more puppies on the way. She's a very characteristic feature. Okay, I'm going to turn, or we're going to miss it. The smell of our dogs, everybody. It's always quite difficult to tell you what we smell. There's this like sweetness to them, the sweet and sourness. Morning, morning. And they are on the move. Oh my goodness, that is oh my word, there is a proper dribbly bottom happening right there. Be very careful driving in that. Every track I worked for loves it when you drive in animal poo. Watch out for the very, very fresh dog poo over there, everybody. So this is when we leapfrog with other vehicles so as to maximize who can see them and who can't. Obviously, they've been sitting quite nicely for everybody to take photos, but now when they start moving, they might go down to the dam. They might... This is the direction we came up from. Ooh, make sure you don't... Where's dwarf sage? When I need it. Okay, well, we're going to carry on following these dogs. Looks like they're going over towards Chitto open area. So we're going to follow them and see where they can get to.
How insane is that animal?
This is out of this world. Fantastic. Good, Mama.
Wow, what a way to start off.
It's just such an incredible privilege to be out here. It just keeps on delivering.
There you go, there you go. Heart is pumping right now.
3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Look at this, everybody. We've got a live kill.
The cock's holding the tail. It's holding tight. Lucky wildebeest.
There's nowhere to go. This is a disaster in the making.
Something that I have never seen before in my entire life that you are now watching live.
heart is in my mouth, everybody.
Look at this. It's gonna make it. It's going. It's going.
This is just too magical. Hi, little guys. That's great, isn't it? Look at that. Scuba Steve has got a friend.
You've got a friend in me. It couldn't be a better morning. This is just too special.
Oh my goodness, we've got a turtle.
How epic is the fact that we're coming to you live from the Chobe River?
It's the most incredible feeling to be here. This is live, and we're in Rwanda. This is a very, very different adventure, charged with emotion.
I did not think I would ever face my fears like this.
My name is Ross, and I'm a field guide at and beyond Pinde Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on Wild Earth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. Our dogs, the ones on the left over there, have spotted some impala. Let's see what happens here. These are mainly the puppies coming up from the back. The impala haven't seen the dogs. And, well, there's a hyena that's also following them quite closely. So this could go in any direction. Wild dogs are very efficient hunters. They've got a hugely successful ratio. And right now, the impalas are probably in a lot of trouble. What will be interesting is the amount of hyenas that are following the dogs. 6 hyenas can be a formidable force if they worked together. If they only worked together, they would have success in stealing. But the dogs are a very cohesive unit. They work together. There's no selfishness between them. Okay, you see the dog on the front left is sort of stalking towards those impala there that they don't quite seem to know what to do. Normally by now, the impala will have bolted. It's almost as if they're not sure. Really? Are those dogs? Surely not. You can hear some alarm calls a little bit further off to the left. Now, normally with wild dog, impala just start to bolt, do that very powerful running gait, that rocking horse gait to show how strong and powerful their legs are. It's possible there's a leopard in the area as well, because that's the behavior they do with leopards. So there were tracks of leopards on the other side of the airstrip coming towards the airstrip. So from the new Chitwa driveway, could be Sibuyi and her cubs in the area as well. It's definitely the sounds they're making for. I don't know. I'm just going to move up a little bit so that we can be more in line with this when it takes place. Let's just crawl forward very slowly. So interesting seeing these hyena brazenly just hanging out with the dogs. Okay, let me just move up. Okay, there's a wildebeest in amongst the impala. Maybe they think he's going to save them. Now, this is very interesting behavior. You would have expected the impala to have bolted by now. This is the most sort of calm I've ever seen this kind of situation. Okay, there we go. Here we go. The running has started. The running has started. Hold on to your hats, everybody. The dogs aren't looking that interested, to be honest with you. Normally, they take off at breakneck speed. They're going to select an individual. And it looks like they're heading off in that direction. It's so interesting to see. This is the slowest I've ever driven after hunting dogs that are jumping in the long grass. Maybe they're not really able to see as well. I suppose the grass is very long. They're all stopping up ahead here as if they don't quite know what's happened. That was the least energized wild dog hunt I've ever seen. My heart rate didn't even go up, maybe a little bit. Other vehicles with us, of course. Maybe the impala know that the dogs are a bit too short at this time of year to keep up the pace because of the long grass. Interesting. Boy, you seen wild dogs hunting before? You have. It was pretty slow, eh? In comparison. Normally we are racing after them. When they pick a target, they go. They're obviously not that hungry. They're just sort of stretching their legs a bit. Let's terrorize the impala on Chitwa this morning was their manifesto. Many mouths to feed. They definitely had killed something before we got to them this morning. That's what the hyenas were after. As we drove away, the hyenas were squabbling over some bones. Wild dogs don't have the same biting power that hyenas do, so they can feed on most of the meat, some of the bones, but then the harder, stronger, more calcified bits are left for the hyenas. Jerome, indeed, they did look like they'd eaten, so they're not that hungry. They just, some of them probably could do with a little bit more. And, it's like, maybe they're just looking for some dessert. A little bit of dessert. Now they're trying to figure out, where did all those impala go to? So not being the strongest of predators, wild dogs obviously are more susceptible to predation or being injured than the other counterparts. So their longevity naturally is probably in the region of 15 years, maybe 20, but that would be in unnatural conditions. But they're susceptible to injury through their running, the fact that they're not very, very strong in comparison to many of our other predators. They're only getting up to 30 kilograms. They're very small. In fact, when you spend time right next to them, Kelly, the ears are incredible, aren't they? Incredible. You can see that the ears are a very important part of their hunting strategy, but I think more so for survival and defense, detecting predation, because those very big ears, you notice they spend a lot of their time looking for prey. Very, very visual when it comes to prey identification. And obviously the ears are remnants of most dogs' ability to hear very well, but when you think of the bat-eared fox, their ears are designed for detecting the movement of subterranean organisms. And no doubt that wild dog probably had that as a part of their diet at one point. Being dogs that are able to dig, as we all know, dogs love digging. Anna Marie, it's very special, isn't it? Okay, we're going to move again because they're now headed. Look, let's have a look at the troop of hyenas following. There's 4 or 5 hyenas following right behind. Let's quickly send you to Tristan. Okay, yes. Well, what a relief. We have had the most hectic morning trying to keep up with this girl. It has been a pain in the backside. We've had to relocate her, I don't even know how many times, and she's finally gone up a tree now, which is wonderful news. So I'm going to reposition quickly and just get ourselves into a better spot so that we can actually enjoy her, because all we've done has been crashing through bushes, being hit in the face, back, forth, following alarm calls of birds, little glimpses of her tail here and there. It's been quite something to have followed her so far this morning. She's really been at her A game in terms of, well, doing what Kalamba does best, and that's missioning. But there we go. She's finally up a marula tree, and maybe this is going to be her kind of stopping for the morning. You can see how she's grooming herself. I think, like us, she is absolutely covered in seeds, ticks, and all kinds of other things. I have a whole pepper tick nest go all over my leg while we were off-roading. So it's been an adventure this morning, but I'm glad we finally caught up with her. If it wasn't for the fact that we had another 2 vehicles helping us, there's no ways we would have been able to find her. She has been seriously missioning and walking very, very fast at that too. But at least we've got her, which is good news, and she's now posing beautifully as one could ask for, as beautifully as one could ask for, up in a marula tree. It's nice to see her. Her tummy's come down quite a lot, so I don't think cubbies are involved. I think it was just that she was very full, so whatever she found clearly was a decent meal, that's for sure. Thank you, girl, for finally stopping. She didn't look like she was about to stop. She kind of was just going and going and going, and then all of a sudden she just saw the tree. She's like, nah, that's it. I'm tired of the grass, tired of all the seeds, ticks, various other things. And that's why she's grooming herself so much right now. She's, like I say, is probably quite covered in grass, seeds, and ticks at the moment. And this grooming will be all part of just sorting that out and making sure that she gets rid of all the various parasites that potentially she's collected on her walk. It's not going to be the most comfortable tree, Kalamba. I was just looking at these branches thinking to myself, not sure this is... Maybe if she comes forward to closer towards where we are, there's like a flatter part, or the branch in the background to her left has got a nice part for her to sleep on. That's a nice sort of straight branch over there. But where she is right now is way too much of a slope. She won't be comfortable if she sits there. But there are a couple trees here that will, a couple branches that she could potentially get up to. She just needs to go a little higher if she wants to do so. Cool though, isn't it? To see that little candy cane tail just hanging down, silhouetted against the sky.
The Djuma Leopard Palooza continues. And we've really been spoilt of late. And like I say, this morning was such a cool track. I had such fun tracking her this morning. Jerry, I'm not sure what you mean. And do you mean the leopards within the area as in the females to one another? Or are you talking about leopards in this area versus other areas? It's two very different things. In size, also, this is it's such a relative thing because, when you see a leopard like this by itself, you think of it as a certain size. Then you see another leopard by itself and you think of that as a certain size, and various factors will determine that. But actually, they're all pretty similar. And only when you see them side by side do you understand that they are that way. To give you an example, if all the photos that I had seen previously of Kara and the photos of Inzatini always looked chunkier and bigger. But yesterday, the two next to each other, there was almost no discernible difference. But I mean, if we had to really kind of look at it, I would say probably, are you going to lie there though? That is a comfy branch. That's the good spot right there. If I was going to look at it, I'd say probably Tlalamba, or Shadulu would be probably the biggest, followed by Insele and Tlalamba, and then Tandi. Although Sibui actually is probably bigger than Tlalamba too, so it would be that would be my kind of Shadulu and Sibui on top, and then slowly filtering them down from there. If we did see Tiani, she's also quite a chunky cat, so she would be up there with Sibui, but we don't see much of her. Inzatini's still growing, Kara's still growing his hyena now. That's typical when you've been off-roading a lot. Hyenas generally arrive and see if it comes towards the tree. It's just walking in the background. We'll see if it starts to make its way here. I can't see which hyena it is. All I can see is 2 ears walking through the grass. There is really no way to tell what hyena it is. It's just that it is a hyena. It's June with her floppy ear. Hello, June. So we know you're not at the den then. Look how she's nosed down, picked up the scent of a leopard. Oh, there's a leopard in the tree. Hello, leopard. Do you have a kill? Smell the air? No kill. And off June will go. She'll carry on and go and find something else. They're pretty quick to discern whether or not a leopard has a kill. When they see them in the trees like this, they just look around, notice that there's nothing going on, and then very quickly move on and find somewhere else. I'm going to come to the base just to check though. You can see the size of her in comparison in terms of her bulk. Talking about like sizes of leopards, often people wonder the size of these adult female hyenas. They are big creatures. You don't realize it when you're in cars until you... are you upset with her, my girl? Telling June to go away. But when you actually see them kind of in the same sighting together, you realize that these hyenas are not small. They are very chunky animals and are built like little tanks. June, where have you been eating? Because you're like a little barrel. She is very full. I don't know where she's been feeding, but wherever it is, it's obviously been a big meal. Which is good news, because obviously June's nursing a cub. So you always like to see moms well fed and happy and healthy. It always makes for a good, happy story. Tlalamba? Have you prepped for the cyclone, my girl? Maybe that's why she's been on such a little mission this morning, just checking out areas. Apparently we're supposed to get the cyclone arriving in the early hours of tomorrow morning. We've got the cloud cover already that's coming in from that. So I think that we'll have fairly decent rain tomorrow. It's not as much as it was initially forecast, though. I see the forecasts have been decreasing every day. Started out quite a lot, but it's now dropped to about, over the 3 days of that cyclone being in the area, it should only be about 100 mils as opposed to 300, 350 that was at one point predicted. Still 100 at this stage after all the rain we've had will be a lot. It will cause a little bit of flash flooding, particularly in the drainage lines. The water table is high at this stage. And I always find it fascinating to see what animals do in those conditions. I think we're going to find a lot more of this, leopards particularly in trees. Even sometimes when it gets really wet, when we had the 2012 floods, we started to see some of the lions climbing trees too, just to get out of the wet grass for a change. I remember having the Styx pride once, all in a tree. The whole pride was lying up, which was pretty cool, in a Maruda tree. So sometimes you can see it with them. The nice thing is the one good thing about this time of the year, and while we have been, it's a struggle to follow animals, you're finding a lot of them, and I've just touched on this before in the last few days. There's a lot of them spending a lot more time kind of in places where we can see them based off the fact that they are up in trees or on termite mounds, and the lions in particular are on the roads. They're not enjoying lying in this long grass either, so they typically finding open little spots, which makes it much easier to spot them because your eyes focus generally in clearings and open spots on a landscape. Spotting these guys has become a lot easier. Oh, is that nice, my girl? Are you happy now? I think this is Tlalamba's little spot for the morning. I'm so happy because where she was going as well, we were about to lose her. If she went another 150 meters from where we are right now, there was no way of following her any further. She would have gone into an extension of the Milwaukee that's not possible to follow cats. We've tried many times. It's not something that can be done. And so, I'm glad that she decided to go up the tree. That's why I was a bit stressed that we would have followed her all this way and then we were going to lose her. But luckily she's decided to take it easy. Spoilt us with being in a tree this week, Tlalamba. It's 2 out of 2 sightings that we've had of you. Also, what's interesting is how far she's walked during the night last night. She was seen briefly yesterday on Buffelshoek, late yesterday evening. And the amount of distance she's covered since then is quite remarkable. She obviously walks a lot more than we even realize at the moment as Tlalamba, and that's par for the course. A young leopard like this, still kind of figuring things out, still, looking for partners to mate with. She hasn't had her first set of cubs. As soon as she has cubs, her area will localize a lot better. She's not going to be as widespread as what she is at the moment. At the moment she's going from, and where we found these tracks today is Treehouse Dam, basically. So she's going from Treehouse Dam all the way up to basically the Manuleti border, and then coming all the way to the east as far as Torchwood, and then kind of back into Djuma. So she's got a huge swathe of land. And what I'd actually like to do is, I think maybe this afternoon or tomorrow, I must bring a pen and paper, a big piece of paper, and we can redo all of the territorial areas for a lot of these cats, because we haven't done that in a while. And I know a lot of you have been asking about, or trying to understand where these cats move and how overlapped the territories are, and which cats are occupying which spaces. So we'll definitely do that at some point. It's an interesting thing to do because it kind of gives a very good idea of just how populated this area is at the moment and how overlapping the territories are currently. Right, we'll stay with her. Hopefully she's going to just stay up the tree and continue to provide us with such beautiful views.
Welcome back, everyone. We've moved out to the wild dog sighting. How exciting was that? Well, probably the least exciting hunt I've ever seen, but fun nonetheless. Just goes to show you how when the hunger drive diminishes, the need to hunt becomes more of an instinctive thing than an actual hunt. So definitely weren't behaving in the way we've experienced before, where you feel like you're going to break the car trying to keep up with them. Whew. Just talking about wild dogs hunting gets me excited. Okay, so we're going to see if we can find these tracks of where Sandy came back into Djuma/Torchwood. Maybe we'll be lucky.
So as you can see, Columba's still in the same branch. She's making herself more comfortable. We now have 3 of the 4 legs hanging down. I suspect that the one on the kind of branch itself is just a little pillow foot for now. And so she's not going to drop that one anytime soon. But she has made herself as comfortable as possible. And I wouldn't be surprised that she spends most of her day here, unless it really starts to rain this afternoon, which is predicted for a little bit of sprinkles. She might stay, like I say, might stay there until much later today. If it had been a hot morning like yesterday, I think we would have definitely seen her staying here. But we'll see how she goes this morning and see whether or not she moves. I think she's had such a hectic morning herself. She's worn herself out doing what she did this morning. Not only does she wear us out, but she's worn herself out too, which is good for us because, you know, it luckily happened while we were still on drive and we were still with her rather than her wearing herself out and losing us pretty quickly. It's just something about a leopard in a marula tree, though. I can never get tired of it, ever. It's one of those things that you always kind of want to see when you're out here. So, Levi, that's a very, very difficult question to answer because it's always very dependent on the female themselves and how successful they are at raising their litters. So, for example, Karula, Tlalamba's grandmother, you know, she had a certain set of litters because she was very successful. So her number of litters was actually quite low, but highly successful in that she raised many of those litters to adulthood. So she had 6 litters in total. 5 of them she raised to adulthood, which pretty much occupied her entire adult life. Whereas if you look at her daughter, Shadow must have had, I don't even know how many she had in the end, but it was easily in the teens of litters. So more than double what Karula did, but she had a very low success rate, and that's not because she was a bad mother. A lot of people label her as a mother that didn't really look after her cubs. That's not true at all, and very unfair to say. She was in a place where it was very difficult for her to raise cubs. She had a high hyena density. She was on the border of male territories multiple times, which meant that she had to deal with male conflict and males kind of chasing her cubs around. And she just had bad luck. I mean, there was just times where bad things happened at bad times. And you look at Shadulu, and you look at her track record, it's starting to shape out very similar to Shadow's, and she's using the same territory as Shadow's. Yes, she's raised this cub to maturity in the form of Kara, but she lost one of that litter. There was reports that she might have had another litter prior to that she lost, and then we know that she lost the litter afterwards. So she too is learning very quickly that the area that Shadow has used is not as easy as potentially what Tundi and Karula have had, which is here on the Mulawati, where they've had really nice male kind of dynamics in many ways. There is something to be said, though, for certain females being better in terms of choosing den sites and being more perceptive, and that's evidenced by Tundi's behavior versus Shadow's behavior when Hukumuri arrived. So when Hukumuri first got here, Shadow had a cub. Her behavior didn't change as much. She still utilized the same areas, and while she was more cautious and she kind of moved around a little bit, she wasn't as extreme as Tundi. Tundi was almost paranoid about it and would move Tlalamba all the time, constantly. And yes, there was an age difference there, but Tundi's approach was far more proactive than Shadow's, and in the end, we don't know what happened to Shadow, but she and the cub disappeared as Hukumuri kind of tightened his grip in this area. Whereas, as we can see by Tlalamba being in this tree, Tundi was successful in being able to play the chess game and outmaneuver Hukumuri. And I say outmaneuver because for a period of, I would say, about 3 weeks to a month, it literally was a chess game. Hukumuri would follow her tracks all over the place, and she just constantly moved the cub, constantly kind of changed den sites, and somehow managed to outfox him and kind of keep him away from Tlalamba. And that's a testament to her kind of ability. But, you know, litters are always dependent on a number of factors, and no 2 leopards are going to have the same number of litters. Average litters are also going to be variable across the spectrum of leopard habitats. It really depends on densities, other predators. All of those things are going to determine how many litters a female can have. So, I mean, it's a very long-winded answer to a very short question, but there we go. quite glad actually that Tundi made sure that this one was kept safe. I have a very soft spot for Tlalamba, as many of you know. Right, I'm glad that Tlalamba also managed to save our Djuma cat today and didn't let the dogs take over. We're talking about the dogs. Let's send you across to Steve and see whether he's still with them.
Yeah, stations, the guys from Manileti's got in Goma Pride. They're on Yarikamba.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Djuma. We've got a beautifully big male giraffe who's feeding on the beautiful low-felt milkberry tree, which is filled with little yellowy orange fruits. Now this tree, the milkberry, we don't see too many of them in Djuma. They got a very easily identified by their leaf structure and little clusters of leaves, but they also produce, you could probably see little yellow berries on there, which are delicious. Taste like vanilla milkshake. Yes, that's right, everybody. They taste like vanilla milkshake. And this is a local tree that they actually looked at growing commercially, like marulas, to make a commercial plant, but for some reason the viability didn't work out. So I did look at it growing commercially. Those little yellow fruits are absolutely to die for. Everybody likes a bit of vanilla milkshake, don't they? And this giraffe is loving it. A big male, you can tell by the ossicones. See how he's also listening while he's feeding. That long face. So early science, before they did dung analysis and analysis of stomach content, it's all very passive, how people to figure out what plants animals would eat. Let's quickly send you over to Untitled Chapter.
Copy that. All right, guys, good morning, good morning. It is a beautiful morning here in Tolu Kalahari. And this morning was just evident that having help always works. So we started the morning coming to look for the lions, and actually about 20 minutes after we drove a particular road, there was another vehicle that went on that road, and the lions' tracks were over ours. If they hadn't spotted that, we would have had a long day of tracking these guys. By the way, guys, my name is Moritz. Behind the camera, we've got Craig. And so, yeah, this is the same individuals that we saw yesterday morning. And they've traveled quite some distance. It seems like they've also killed during maybe yesterday afternoon or during the evening and finished. They kill all of the bellies nice and round, well, most of them at least. And they, like I said, literally walked over our vehicle tracks from this morning. Luckily, when the guys told us about that, we could turn around and come and stand on top of the dune, and while they were following the tracks, we could have a look out from the dune, and we actually spotted them moving in the long grass, and we were able to locate them on that. But you can see how nice and round that belly is now. Definitely fed on something. And you know, for 6 individuals like these to have a full belly like that, they must have killed something, because all of them are, well, most of them, I haven't seen all 6's bellies, but to see them almost, let's say all of them, looking as round as that, that must have been like an adult oryx or something that they've killed. Maybe a kudu, could be a young eland as well. I don't think they'll quite be there yet to take down something as large as an adult, maybe an eland bull or maybe a giraffe or something like that. But it was definitely a larger animal that they killed and finished during the evening. Could have even been a zebra. So very happy to see that they've fed. I hope those dogs also had something to eat, maybe last night or early this morning. but always just amazing to see how timing in the bush is also everything. You know, you can track and do everything as well as you want to, but if you drive past a road maybe 2 minutes before that lion is going to cross over, or before the leopard is going to cross over, you might miss it, and then spend 2.5 hours extra, you know, finding the tracks, and in the end only locating on an animal that's maybe flat by that time because it's too warm. To have these guys being nice and mobile and doing all of these things is just stunning. Really, really beautiful. So yeah, guys, let's go past the other vehicles quickly and see if we can get a better view on them. But yeah, as you can imagine, tracking in this type of environment currently is going to be like very, very thick. So with that being the case, here's one next to us now. I'll show you now. Sorry about the bumps, guys. There we go. Look at that boy. Not a worry in the world. Let's see, maybe. No, he's going to follow the rest. But yeah, guys, so let's see where they go. Maybe they go and lie down in a nice shady spot, play maybe a little bit. As you can imagine, these ones are still young. So with that being the case, there's a great possibility that they might still be a little bit playful like we had them yesterday, playing around the waterhole and so on. So for the meantime, we're going to send you over to Steve while we see what these lions are planning for the morning.
Welcome back to our giraffe, who's enjoying his milkshake this morning. Another important distributor of seeds, of course. Those fruits will be going into the belly and then out the digestive system. So we're talking about passive understanding and watching animals feed. It's a very good way to know what they're eating. So many scientists back in the day would have done observational studies watching a giraffe eat. And I mean, you can see quite clearly from here which tree it's feeding on. The same with a zebra, for example. My friend did a PhD on the Cape Mountain zebra in Cape Mountain Zebra National Park. And her observations were obviously to take fecal analysis, which is taking the poo and looking at under microscopes, but you can also do observational studies to see what vegetation they're favoring. You watch them feeding, and once they move off, go and have a look at the exact species that the animal was selectively feeding on. You'll quite often notice that they're not feeding on all of it. There's very specific plant parts that the animal is selecting. We got a leopard. Hold on. Leopard just came down Cheetah Cut line. Went into Torchwood on the right-hand side over here. Who was it? Who were you? Just over here, I saw it. Excitement never ends, everybody. Excitement never ends. It was running. Sorry that I'm sitting so high up in my chair. Get very excited. I saw something in the road. Binoculars at hand. Might have been chasing a scrub hare or something like that. Long grass is very, very difficult. Sorry that we ran away from our giraffe like that. I promise you, I saw a leopard. I'll show you the tracks. Rochelle, it's, I suppose it's just a bit of luck. I wouldn't say that it's got anything to do, well, being in the right place at the right time is helpful. Being in the right place at the right time. Amazing that you can see a cat and then it's gone. Yeah, kitty, kitty. Who could it be? Tandy? Her little boy? I just got the shape in my visual, and then I looked with the binoculars and I saw the white tail and the body moving, and then it cut off very quickly to this side. Could it be a leopard? We don't know, and it's maybe now hiding. That is also possible. So, anticipation is real. How many times do we hear alarm calls and track animals and then go in to find them and they're nowhere to be seen? This vegetation makes life quite tricky, but that's okay. That's the life that these animals live. This is the... Okay, we're going to send you quickly back over to Charlie.
Alrighty guys, so here you can have them walking straight towards us. I'll move out of the way a little bit now so that they don't need to go off the road to get past us. Let's just do that quickly. Just like this. Bear with me, I know the grass is long and so on, but let's just see, maybe we get them coming straight past the vehicle. They are scattered all over the show though. There's another male walking over there, so they are moving around, all around the vehicle and in the bushes and not necessarily on the road, but beautiful how the light hits those cats, eh? Here you can see now 4 individuals coming through on the right hand side of the car. There we go. It's amazing how long the grass is, eh guys? I mean, you'd think that something the size of a lion would stick out easily, but look there, most of the places the grass tops are actually taller than the shoulder blades. Incredible. This one female is going to walk straight past the car now. Hello, girl. Have a look at when she looks at us again, you'll see the pink nose. clear indication of age. All young females, these ones, and then the young boys as well. There's another female also coming down the road. Always amazes me, in grass like this, that it's such long grass. And even though that is the case, they still move so silently. I think let's start following them again. Get on their sunny side. And it's incredible, guys. I mean, it doesn't feel like we're driving a long way or so when following these animals, but they just constantly keep up the same pace, and before you know it, you're 3, 4, 5, sometimes even 10 kilometers away from where you initially found them. It's amazing how they can cover distance in such a short period of time. I mean, absolutely incredible. They've chosen the bumpiest area in the reserve to go into the bushes, though. Let's try and go around and have them walking towards us again. Did you catch that? Jay, just repeat that previous comms. Seth, so, okay, sorry I didn't catch your question the first time. Typically by smell, I mean, it's like you would know your family members as well. You'd find that they do know each other by sight, but smell is definitely going to be the major determining factor. I've seen in areas where there's been places like Botswana, where the lions can sometimes be separated from one another quite easily by, floods and those types of things. I've seen where they don't see each other maybe for 6 months or something like that, or let's say a shorter period of time, 3 months or so, and immediately recognize one another again after being reunited by just smelling each other. So their sense of smell, absolutely their most valued one when it comes to identifying other pride members. And with that being the case, even if they get separated for a long period of time, a month, 2 months or so, they'll still be able to ID one another just by their, their smell fingerprint, if you want to call it that. However, lions that spend time with one another on a regular basis will also be able to hear their calls. Each lion sounds differently, even though to our ears they might sound like regular lions. Well, not regular lions, but like a lion. When you hear their call, they'll definitely be able to take the voice of that particular lion and know that they know this individual or not. The main one, though, still being the smell. And then, like I said, you spend a lot of time with each other, just like you would recognize your brother or your sister. You'd know when you see them, it's them. So if they didn't see each other for a day and they see each other again, they'll just know it like that. However, if it was a longer period of time and they need to positively identify an individual of the pride, it will most likely be because of their smell that they ID the animals. We'll just wait for them to all pass and then we'll jump back onto the road behind them. You can actually, while they're walking, hear them breathe. It's incredible. Two past. We'll see now. The third and fourth one, I think, is going to come through soon. Yeah, there we go. Guys, also with the young lions, you'll quite often, during this stage of their life, see quite a bit of scars on their back. We'll get closer to them when they relax and have a look at that. Especially the young boys. You'll find quite a bit of scars, especially on their backside. This particular individual is actually very lucky so far. But the reason for that is just because they have been pushed out of the pride now. They are not going to accept that immediately. So with that being the case then, you will find that they'll quite often venture close or wander close to the original or their natal pride, and they'll get smacked around quite a bit, especially by the dominant males. So yeah, guys, we're gonna try and see where these guys are going. Hopefully they'll relax and, you know, become a bit more static, and then we'll come show you again.
Do you dream of traveling to a far-flung wilderness location where life continues as normal? A place where you can escape to nature and breathe. If you become a Wild Earth explorer, then this could soon become a reality. Subscribe today and stand a chance to win regular travel prizes. Wild Earth Explorers, it's in your nature. For the month of January 2021, we are offering a chance to win a unique Wild Earth expedition to the magnificent Tswalu Kalahari. From the ancient Kortai's Koranenberg Mountains to the southern Kalahari's red sand dunes, Tswalu offers what travelers crave most: space and time. The winner will explore this landscape in a vehicle, on foot, or on horseback, with a chance to go behind the scenes with Wild Earth and of course meet the meerkats. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend at the luxury Motse Lodge, including flights from either Johannesburg or Cape Town. Open to all Wild Earth explorers who have signed up before the end of January 2021. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, I'm Kyle, and I come to you live every day here from Tswalu Kalahari in South Africa. My favorite animal in the Kalahari has to be the aardvark. Its unique appearance, its ethology, and as well as ecology within this vast ecosystem is amazing, and something that I have been really lucky to experience on foot here at Tswalu.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth. In a world full of upheaval, we all need a quiet and safe space to breathe. A place where anxiety and stress don't exist. A place where life carries on as normal. Escape to nature with Wild Earth.
Still hanging out with Tlalamba, and she's gone exactly where I thought she would go. And earlier we were talking about branches on this tree that looked like they were going to be comfortable for her to lie on. And I was saying there's a nice big straight branch, and sure enough, that's exactly where she's gone to lay. You can see that's a lot more comfortable for her in many respects. It's a lot flatter, which means her head's not at awkward angles, and she can kind of sprawl out with all feet down and tail down and just generally lounge very leopard-like in her tree. She makes me laugh though, because she's no longer using her foot as a pillow. She's just kind of hanging her head down. She almost looks as though if that left foot were to fall, as though she would be dead, because she's kind of so draped over this branch that she's very much just taking it easy. She's been a bit like up and down. She kind of hasn't found the perfect spot yet. She has moved and then sort of repositioned and then repositioned again and then repositioned again. So I think she's just trying to find exactly where to sit. It amazes me though with this particular cat how well she took to life as an adult on her own. I mean, she was obviously with Tundi for a while and learnt a lot of things from there, but she kind of got left fairly early on. It wasn't very early, but early enough. And she took to being an adult kind of leopard that's self-sufficient very quickly. And since then, I don't think I can recall a sighting of Tlalamba where I thought, sure, this cat really is in need of a meal. She always looks well-fed and always looks as though she's managing to successfully find what she needs in order to survive. She really... even now, today, you can see that there's a kind of bulge on the side of that belly there. It's always got something. And it's because she's very active in hunting. She's not like a lot of leopards that kind of will go on scent marking missions on roads, and that's what they're doing. She walks through blocks. She's very much proactive in chasing multiple things. And even if she misses, it doesn't mean that she's not eventually going to catch something. So she goes after lots of scrub hares and duikers, and even though, it doesn't sound like a lot to have a scrub hare, she kills 3-4 scrub hares a week. That's sustaining her much better than one impala every sort of 10 days, So she's able to constantly just keep food coming in, which has led to her being a pretty well-built, healthy cat. She's quite muscular. That's one thing about Tlalamba. She's quite a stocky little cat. I suppose she would have got that from her dad. He's not exactly small himself, but she's really has developed well. And I mean, we see her more with kills than I think any of the leopards. I know we see obviously Sibuya and the cubs a lot more at the moment, and she's pretty good as well. But if we think about Onjuma itself, if we had to rule out all the other properties that we traverse on, I reckon it must be Tlalamba mostly that is kind of producing the most kills at this stage, and that's the ones we see. We know also that we have vast majority of the time we don't actually spend with Tlalamba. If you had to work out a percentage of her life and how much we've actually been with her, it's a very minuscule percentage. It's not like Hosana, at one stage Hosana we were spending a very high percentage of time with him. She's been a lot more elusive over the months, and her kind of tracks, once you lose sort of idea of where she's been, it becomes very difficult to keep up with where she is and to find her. Like I say, she does cover lots of ground, but once you have a rough idea of the areas she's moving, then keeping tabs on her becomes a lot easier. You can see already, since the day where we found her, she's been found not 2 days ago, yesterday and today, and that's all because it's roughly now we know where she's kind of been. So she's been this sort of western corridor going up into Buffelshoek, and everybody's now checking those areas more frequently and then picking up her tracks. The other thing is that we've had a nice week of dry weather, which means that the roads themselves have started to soften again, and tracks are starting to become a lot clearer than what they were a week ago. Whenever you get rain, you get this crust that forms, and until the cars and elephants and buffalo and break that crust down and soften that sand, seeing tracks on roads can be very difficult. I was actually talking about this with Steve this morning. We were chatting about how tracking lions after tracking leopards is such a much easier experience in many ways, because especially these big prides that we have here, so many footprints and so big, you see them kind of nice and easy. But the other day when Steve tracked the Talamatis and they crossed the whole of Djuma, I afterwards was just bumbling around doing my own thing, and the amount of places where I drove where they had walked and the tracks were very difficult to see, and that goes for that's over 50 tracks of lions that you're not even seeing on the road because of how hard they were after the rain. So once cars have driven and things have broken down, it becomes a lot easier to find these cats. And so that's probably why we're also having a little bit more success with Tlalamba. Prior to that, we just weren't picking up her tracks, even though she maybe was still moving around in this area. And I'm super keen to see where she dens. Like I have kind of constant thoughts about it. I'm hoping and crossing fingers that she doesn't den in two spots. So one spot is kind of a drainage line that's running very close to Hardekwil. And the reason why I don't want it to den there is because we unfortunately won't be able to broadcast from there. It's in a little dip and signal is non-existent. So that's a bit of a selfish reason. It's not because it's not a nice den site, but it's just because we wouldn't be able to get there. The other reason is, well, the other drainage lines are the ones north of Gallagher. If she gets in there, the chance of us finding her or viewing her is going to be almost zero in those drainage lines. So what I'm hoping is that because she was a little cub and she was put in these areas and her movements tend to suggest that she's trying to secure 3 drainage lines at the moment on Djuma. So where she walks is very strategic. She walks the Mulawati, which we know she was kept in as a cub, and she's often close to the den site that she was raised in for quite a long time. She's protecting the drainage line that runs east-west from the Mulawati called off Ingwe Alley. Again, she was put in that drainage line as a very small cub multiple times, and it seems like she's trying to get and secure this drainage line that's running north-south from the Ingwe Alley drainage line that goes up onto Quarantine. And again, she was kept there as a cub. So it's fascinating to me to watch how she's kind of pushed and has scent marked and has moved to try cover all the drainage lines that she was put in as a cub. So she's got the Mulawati for a certain section, which is the one where she was. She's got Ingwe Alley. She's got this one now on the western side of Quarantine, and then she's got Gallagher shortcut drainage lines, and then that one on Buffels Hook. So she's got nice options for den sites, but hopefully she chooses the ones in the Mulawati, because those ones are not only beautiful den sites, but they will be the easiest for us in terms of trying to find her and locate her on a regular basis once she does have cubs. And the last thing we want is for her to have cubs in a place where no one can find her, because then the cubs are very skittish and it becomes a really tricky thing to kind of habituate them. But just on leopards in general, I mean, we're talking den sites, but their camouflage is often a thing that comes up. There's something here that's camouflaging so well. Just to the right of me, there is a tiny little tree with a leaf, and I was just watching the leaf now because the wind is just starting to pick up, which is to be expected because of this cyclone that's approaching. But there's a little tiny leaf, and on that leaf is a grasshopper that is so well camouflaged for this leaf specifically. So if you look on the left side, this leaf over here, there will be a little grasshopper that's sitting there. You can just make it out. It almost looks like it's part of the leaf itself. And the reason why I say it's perfectly suited to this plant is when this plant is growing, this little bush willow, its new leaves often have a slight reddish tinge to them. And if you look at this grasshopper, it's actually got sort of little kind of creamy red markings on the fringes of its body. And that actually blends in super well with these leaves, and it becomes near impossible to see it. It's only when the wind blew and the shine of the leaf changed and didn't shine where it's standing can you see that there's actually a grasshopper there. Now, the reason why this tree actually has those leaves that are that coloration, so that red and kind of almost dead looking new leaf, is because the tree is trying to fool potential predators of it. So things like kudu, nyala, bushback, these kinds of things. If the tree was bright green and had tiny little beautiful green leaves, they're going to target it. But if the leaves look as though they've been burnt and are not really very good quality, then often you'll find the antelope don't feed off those particular trees. So you see it a lot in trees that are heavily eaten. Bush willows and terminalias do it a lot too, where the leaf as a starting out point actually looks more dead than alive, and then as it gets to the point where it's nice and big, then it greens up completely and has no longer got that reddish tinge to it, which is pretty cool. Tlalamba, you look like somebody has injected you with a tranquilizer. You're so passed out. She makes me laugh, this cat. She's another story altogether. Completely out cold. Vita, so cats never are fast asleep. They're always aware of their environment. And so while she's probably going to be as asleep as a cat would be on the ground, she's still very much aware that things can happen at any time. So lions can arrive here, hyena, other leopard, prey animal that she can hunt. So they constantly are able to process stimulus even when asleep. So if the slightest sound that sounds like something that she needs to be aware of, she'll pop her head up immediately and look around. They don't sleep like we do, where we kind of pass out and, you know, people sleep through all kinds of noises. For them, that's is just going to lead to either being killed or missed opportunities from a food point of view. So you'll find that even though they're deep sleeping in a tree, they're still very much aware of their surroundings. And yes, she will deep sleep in this tree in terms of a quality sleep, just as much as she would on the ground. And we found her the other day. She was in a tree, and she must have been there for a good portion of the day, and she was fast asleep. So they do like to sleep up in trees, and it's particular to this time of the year. I mean, I can't remember the last time we've had so many leopards in trees without kills in the space of a week. I think it must be even, in fact, I don't think ever at Yuma I've had this many cats up trees without kills. If you think about this week, we've had her twice. We've had Sabui's cub up a tree. I had Tandi's cub the other day on a fallen over log. So there's been a lot of cats that are using tree in Zutini in a tree the other day. So it's been a lot of cats that are using trees to sleep rather than lying in the grass with all the ticks at the moment. It's, I think, a very good way to manage your tick load is to be up in a tree rather than in this long grass. And it's safer at the end of the day. You're not going to get surprised by a marauding pack of dogs or a pride of lions or anything like that. Okay, well, we're going to stay with Tlalamba. It's so often we don't actually get to spend a lot of time with her because of how much she moves. So I think we'll just spend the morning and talk all things kind of Tlalamba and leopards. In the meantime, let's send you to Swalu. It sounds like they've got something that she always needs to be careful of for her own safety.
Alrighty, guys. So yeah, luckily they have now decided to become a little bit more static. We just almost had we thought we were going to have some action. They were lying down on the road and they all of a sudden jumped up, and there was one female that disappeared before that, all of a sudden jumped up, and we thought, okay, they might still look to hunt if there's an easy opportunity. But then as we came around the corner, you could see all of them relaxed again and now just doing their thing like this. This is a very good place for them to spend the day, though. You'll see the one in front of us is most likely going to dip down. Let's go a bit closer, see if we can get a better view. There might be some water in this little depression. Forms like a natural water hole over here. And always good for them too. Yeah, she's going to dip down. Let's see if we can go around the top. Or just change the angle a little bit at least. So yeah, always a good place for a lion to lie down if there's water available and typically with one another. So then they can take the day easy, as well as to not great water though. It looks more like a mud wallow of maybe the buffalo or something like that. But being close to the water and good shade for the day is a stunning place to have a rest. Seems like those two boys that came through with this female has already dropped down, maybe behind that blackthorn tree there. Here's another female also now coming out on the left-hand side. See how careful she is to not get her paws in the mud. It's incredible. Always nice to see even the big cats still being cats, not wanting to get their paws wet or dirty for that matter. You can see some of the females haven't completely filled their stomachs with the kill that has happened. This one that's walking here in front, that one that we're looking at right now, you can see that belly is not full. She had a bit to eat, but not nearly as much as the males. You know, even at this, even at this young age, those males are going to throw their weight around quite a bit more than the other females. So they will definitely, even if they don't even help making the kill, because I've seen them trying to help with the kills and it doesn't work. So most of the time the females just prefer having them hang back at the moment. Even though they don't partake in the kills quite often or the hunt often, they'll still take the male lion's share and feed first and fill their bellies before they'll allow the females to come in and do their thing as well. Still not seeing all of the individuals of the group though. Missing 2 females at the moment. They might have just, dropped down in the shade somewhere else. But it is getting nice and warm now, so it's getting to that point where a little bit of a sneeze, where the lions are going to become a bit more static and take it easy for the warm part of the day, especially with them all having something to eat last night. Even if not all of them are full, they'll still get lazy pretty quickly. I mean, even though we are saying that she didn't fill her belly completely, you can still see it's nice and round. So it's not like they are struggling with the males around. They're just not eating as much as they would necessarily want to. Time for a Saturday morning nap. Very cool. You can hear Diedrich's cuckoo vocalizing in the distance. I love that sound. Beautiful, the cuckoo's always. Here's another female now coming through there at the, well, not at the water, but closing in on the water's edge. One of these lions has allergies by the looks of it. Lots of pollen in the air now, guys, as you can imagine, with all the grasses going into seed now. So as you're driving, you just get this cloud of pollen forming if there's any grass on the road. Shame. She's really struggling to get to where the water is and not have her toes get wet. So excited to see that path that these lions will follow now that they've sort of split off and started operating by themselves. Like I said yesterday morning, I'm pretty sure the boys will be pushed out soon and they'll have to go off and be nomadic, which is ideal because you don't want them to get to their sisters or their cousins when they start realizing that boys and girls are after all different. But for these 4 females, I think there's a bright future in front of them. They're excellent hunters, especially the 3 older sisters. That one young female, she needs to still learn the ropes a little bit, but having her cousins or her half-sisters or however you want to call it, as guides or as mentors, she'll pick up on it very, very quickly. Ah, there's a beautiful shaft-tailed wider. You get it?
Right, unfortunately, we had a little tech issue with Swallow, so you're with us now. And you can see this is the most beautiful picture of little Tlalamba sitting up in the tree. She really looks beautiful on this particular branch. She's perfectly kind of in the open, not a single leaf or branch that's kind of in the frame. I suppose a little bit on the right-hand side, but she really does look good in that little spot. She's kind of naturally framed by the trees themselves, which is really cool. And she's kind of quite aware. She's been looking around a lot since the sun came out. There's a bit of sunshine that's just emerged from behind the clouds, and I'm hoping that we're going to see a little bit of blue sky behind her, because it will be so pretty if we get that deep blue coloration behind her on a branch like this, with that little bit of sunlight, dappled light that's hitting her. It will be everything that you kind of want in a leopard being up in a tree. The other nice thing is that we're all on our own with her now, which is the best leopard sightings for me. I absolutely love spending time with these guys when it's just us. There's something about sitting with a cat all on your own that is very, very special. David, it's not that much cooler. In the shade, yes, but that's only just because the sun's just come out. But it's not that much cooler. There is a breeze blowing, so that's shifting the air quite a lot. So, yeah, I mean, it's cool because she's not getting hit by the sun. If she was sitting in the sun, she'd be a lot warmer than she is. That little spot that she is in right now, she's lucky because that branch a little bit further on either side has got quite a lot of sun on it. Where she is now is nice deep shade, and so she's going to be very cool up there at the moment. There's a nice, like I say, a really nice breeze that's blowing. So it's much cooler up there because in the grass itself they don't get the breeze nearly as much. But up there she's getting all of that plus the shade. Perfect little spot for a leopard to relax. And I'm really enjoying the fact that she's become a lot more arboreal than her mom. Tundi very seldom does this. She's not a cat that we often find in a tree, just sitting in a tree for the sake of it. Whereas Tlalamba slowly but surely is becoming more and more that way inclined. We're finding her fairly regularly now, just relaxing in trees. And yes, I know there's the weather conditions, but even prior to that, when it was still dry, every now and then you'd find her just sitting in a tree, relaxing and enjoying the sort of comfort of being up there. And hopefully that will continue. Oh, look at that now that she's turned with her eyes. So pretty. Like I say, that tree is just kind of framing her nicely. You've got this beautiful view of the kind of sky being very clear behind her, but the tree itself, the branches, is like a little natural window around her, which is pretty cool. That is as good a leopard in a tree sighting as you can want. Nice big yawn. Are you going to move, Michael? Yes, I think so. I think we're tired of being in this spot. It's been a very long time for you to sit in one place, Tlalamba. I'm very impressed at your attention span so far to stay there. But I think she wants to move. I think she wants to go and find other things to do. I wish she wouldn't, because we're just starting to get that blue sky behind her now. Are you having a nice time up there? She's going to move now. Maybe it's just getting a little bit too sunny. I don't know. Maybe she wants to find something a little bit more shady. Tony, I've never actually seen one try, to be honest with you. I've seen giraffe. In fact, a giraffe just walked past just now, but didn't feed from the same tree as a leopard. I've never seen that. I would never say never, though. I'm sure it's highly possible that it does happen. A giraffe wanders up to a tree and a leopard's high up in the branches. Pretty sure that could be something that could happen, but I personally have never seen that take place. Oh, Chalamba, it was magic while it lasted, wasn't it? But now we're going to go into the long grass again. You see, she's gone back up the tree. Isn't this amazing? You see how quickly she responded? There was an impala that started alarm calling or snorting, and she immediately went back up the tree to try and see if she can spot where they are in order to hunt them. So rather than going down and not being able to see, she's using this now as a vantage point, all because she heard that impala snorting. Amazing, isn't it? How they respond to vocal sounds. They're like us when we're trying to find them in many ways. As soon as they hear any sort of sound that could indicate either the whereabouts of prey or potentially another predator, they're immediately up the tree to watch. And you see now she's going to settle down and she's going to wait. She was about to come down. She was literally seconds away from moving and going into the grass again. But she's heard an impala snort. And so she's going to stop now and she's going to listen and she's going to move around and kind of just watch until such time as she sees what she's looking for. And then you're going to see she'll kind of come down and trot off in the direction of that and start hunting it. I think she's in the mood for a little hunting mission. She just needs to spot what she's looking for. And I think what she was doing earlier, she didn't want to go into quarantine because it's way too clear there at the moment. She would prefer to wait until it gets a little bit warmer, and then she knows a lot of the impalas that are on quarantine are going to move into where we are right now, and they're going to spend time in this little section feeding and being in the shade, and that then gives her an opportunity to hunt in this longer, thicker grass with a lot more trees and bushes to hide behind. It's very clever, actually, when you think about it. Pretty though with that little bit of blue sky in the back, isn't it? The kind of combination of gold and black coat with green leaves and blue sky always makes for a very pretty picture. See, she's just scanning now, trying to figure out where the sound came from. Unfortunately, my ears must be bad because where I heard that impala was not the way she's facing. I thought it was more to the left of where she's facing. But, that's just me. Who am I to argue with the hearing of a leopard? Unless maybe she just spotted others. There could also be another group of impalas that are around as well. Jerome, no, unfortunately not. It's a sore point. I don't really want to talk about it. I would love to see a melanistic leopard. I came very, very close to a melanistic leopard when I was in India. Twice we had a melanistic leopard cross right just before we arrived, and we could hear the deer alarm calling, but just couldn't see it. But leucistic, no. The strawberry leopards, as they call them, there's really only been a few places that they've seen them, mostly in the northwest of South Africa, but to be honest with you, I haven't seen them myself. I've seen lots of photos of them, but never in real life. One day I will get one of the black leopards at some point, make it a mission and try and see if I can find them. I'm hoping that kind of when all of this craziness of this pandemic sort of eases off and travel becomes easier, can head back to India and try and see if we can find either one. There's two that are quite well known in India. There's the one that's in a park in the south, and then there's another one that's in the park in the central parts. The one in the central parts is not as black as the one in the southern parts. I actually, funny enough, think the one in the central parts is possibly one of the most beautiful leopards I've ever seen, because it's not jet black. You can actually see the rosettes and a little bit of the caramel color coming through the black. It's in a park called Todoba. So for those of you that are interested and want to Google it, you can Google black leopard of Todoba and you'll get the pictures of it. It is absolutely beautiful. So I'm sad that we didn't see it. Like I say, we came very close twice. It's quite frustrating when you know somebody's just seen it cross and you can hear the deer right next to the road kind of facing into the forest, but because of that coloration, once they get into the shadowed areas, it's near impossible to spot that cat. So just have to try again, just have to keep doing it until we get some sort of success. That's how nature works and why wildlife is so addictive, is because you can always get a new experience, you can always see something new, do something new, see or go to new places, and the quest for finding animals and things like that, is always happening. There's always some sort of anomaly or some sort of group of animals that does something different. So if you think of like the Fast Five, the cheetah up in Kenya, those 5 males that are together, different and not really heard of before that. These black leopards, white lions of Ingala is a prime example. These kind of animals will drive people to travel and to conserve more spaces because of these anomalies that sometimes occur in the world. So one day we'll get there eventually. I have a lot of kind of bucket list things, but a black leopard is high on it, as well as trying, and this would be near impossible, but it would be a very cool mission to try and do, is to try and get all 9 subspecies of leopard. That would be very, very cool. But like I said, some of those leopards are near impossible to find. They're pretty much seen only on camera traps. Very few people are actually seeing those in real life anymore. So that would be really tricky. But other than that, I would also like to see the more common leopards that are not leopard, so to say. So like clouded leopard, snow leopard, they're also very high. And we'll get there eventually. You've got to be patient and just slowly, you'll eventually kind of see them. It's weird when you think about it. You work every day out in the bush, and then you spend everything that you've made in the bush to go back to the bush. It's a fair kind of way to put it. I mean, I think it's not the worst way to do things, I would imagine. Well, at least not for me anyway. Kalamba, have you decided to sleep now? I don't know if you even know what you want to do. Marty, she can take down pretty large stuff by herself. She'll be able to take down something as big as a female kudu, even at her size. It would be very difficult, and it wouldn't be something that she'd be able to keep because hyenas would steal it. But she's definitely capable of taking down a prey animal of that size. So yeah, that would be kind of her upper limit. Would be, a sort of fully grown female kudu would be as big as a leopardess could go. The males can take down bigger stuff. They've been recorded taking down male kudu, like I say, baby ellies, baby rhinos. There's not many things out here that a leopard hasn't been able to get the better of at some point. Their diet is so varied that they end up taking all kinds of random stuff from, whatever you can think of, insects, all the way through to these super large mammals. They're able to do it. But in the case of elephant and rhino and even baby hippos, those are all very opportunistic and generally newborns. Once those little babies are able to stand and move around, a leopard really has no price on trying to actually conquer or hunt those. They have to, I'm afraid, stick with the smaller things once those little babies are up. But if they can get them when the baby's just born and there's maybe a little defect or there's some sort of issue, then you can find a leopard going after that. They also do hunt giraffe quite regularly, and fairly sizable giraffe too if they're big males. I mean, the one that Tingana brought down a few years ago, and Anderson brought down a couple too that were chunky. The one that Tingana brought down was massive. I mean, that was near a year old, that giraffe, and he managed to bring it down. I still wish to this day that I could have been there half an hour before. It's a very long story, but essentially we followed tracks for Tingana and Moya, which is a female from the south. She's also known as the Nanga female. She generally didn't come up towards Simambili, but anyway, they were mating, and he and her walked all the way up into Simambili, and we had followed the tracks pretty much all morning, trying to see if we could locate this mating pair. And it was getting late in the morning, and the guests were starting to get a bit frustrated with the fact that all we had stared at was these little sort of marks on the ground and hadn't really seen very much. And so we decided to stop for a coffee, and not even 500 meters down the road, these two leopards managed to bring down this giraffe, and we heard the commotion, so it wasn't like it had happened previously. So if we had just kept driving and not stopped, we would have potentially seen that whole thing take place. And the reason why I wish I had seen it is because I would love to know if that would have been a cooperative hunt. And when I say cooperative, I mean, did Tingana and Moya both hunt that giraffe together, and that's why they were successful in bringing down quite a large giraffe? Or was it just, Tingana doing it, or, who was actually involved there? Because I have a sneaky suspicion that a giraffe of that size, Tingana was the initial one that got hold of it, but that maybe Moya somehow joined in. And would be a very, very unique occurrence, because I don't think it's ever been documented of a male and female leopard hunting together or killing an animal together. So it would be very, very, very interesting to figure out what happened. But alas, we'll never know. It will be one of those bush mysteries that will unfortunately live on, and there will be never an answer as to what happened there and whether both of them had gotten involved. But they were both lying at the carcass. There was lots of scratches on that little giraffe, and so who knows what actually ended up happening. All I can say is that it was a pretty impressive feat from those two cats to get a meal of that size. They unfortunately lost it that night to the hyena clan from Elephant Plains, but still had a really good feed from it and did pretty well. It was back in Tingana's younger days when he was a young strapping lad. Kalamba, well, you're not going to face the side at all. I think we've done like 3 loops around this tree, is trying to kind of position. She's been up and down so much. Stuck in bed, she does look comfy, doesn't she? I mean, I yet to find a leopard that doesn't really look that comfortable when they put their mind to it. I mean, every now and then they get themselves into an awkward position, and that's most of the time linked to the food that they had to put up into a very odd tree because of hyenas, and then they can't really lie nicely. But when they have a choosing of a tree just to relax in, then you find that they're able to make anything look comfortable. And she certainly has found a nice little place for her bottom just to kind of relax in, and then a slow sort of slope for her head to sit with a little foot pillow that she's got at the moment. So she does look comfortable. She looks properly relaxed, and as though she's setting in now for a while. Like I say, it's amazing how their mind can change. I was pretty convinced she was coming down. In fact, she was coming down, let's be honest. But one little thing changed it, and then from there she's decided, you know what, actually, maybe it's more comfortable up in the tree anyway, so I'm just going to sleep here and wait and see if maybe I pick up what made this noise. And it has gotten a lot hotter all of a sudden. The sun breaking through the clouds is very, very, very warm at the moment. So, it makes sense for her to stay up in the shade of the tree and just relax. There's no real point in being in the hot sun right now. I think if it had still been fairly cloudy, I think she might have decided to move down and start moving. But there's definitely a lot more heat in the air in the last sort of 10 minutes than there was previously. The sun has got a bit of a bite to it, which it had yesterday. Weather yesterday was very weird with that sun kind of coming out. All right. Well, we'll stay with her. I might reposition to see if we can get her face rather than just her shoulder. And in the meantime, let's send you across to Steve.
Thanks, Tristan, indeed. And it has gotten a little hot. We had absolutely no luck finding the leopard that I definitely saw. But you got to lift your arms up like this to help cool yourself down. Okay, so everybody, we're going back into torture, just do a little bit of a scratch around. To torture, it definitely was where I would run.
Well, seems like Steve's got a bit of an issue, so you're back with us. Hopefully none of you mind. Our leopard haven't moved yet because, well, I was just trying to think about whether or not it's going to be good to move around, but I will now, might as well. Let's just see what we can get. Knowing that what's going to happen is I'm going to turn around there and get to the back, and she's going to immediately face this way. It's par for the course, but we'll do it anyway. Just the light was so nice with kind of the blue sky behind, and it's going to be very white behind her now. There's a stump behind us there. I forgot about that stump. Hello, my girl. Are you happy there? She does look happy. She looks very, very, very relaxed. That's for sure. She doesn't look like she's going anywhere right now. Although her eyes are open. I mean, she is watching what's going on. She's checking to see kind of what's up the slope. And there will be a lot of impala coming from that direction. That's where she's facing now, straight up towards Quarantine. There was a herd of impala kind of just on the edge of Quarantine when we left this morning. And they often do come down into this block. They kind of, like I say, feed in here for the day and then back up onto Quarantine as soon as the sun starts to dip. They head out that way. So it's a good block for her to stay in. And I wonder often how much time she spends in this block. We just get this feeling when I drive around this block that she's in here somewhere. And because of the size of it, you don't actually see all of it, and you can't see all of these beautiful trees, which makes me think that we often kind of miss her. And this morning, if we hadn't found those tracks and saw her initially, I don't think anyone would have found her, and you wouldn't be able to see where we are now from a road, no matter kind of where you looked. This tree would be too deep in to actually see. So we got very lucky that we spotted her when we did, and that the tracks themselves where she walked, where we found them, was a nice sort of soft sandy road. Alright, we're going to try again and see if Steve's managed to boot his gremlins. Hopefully he has.
Gremlins everywhere. Is it Friday today or Saturday? Saturday. We live in a bubble here, everybody. Gremlins don't take days off. They're active every day of the week. We are more visible to the Chitwa receiver than we are to the Vuyatela one. I don't know what you got from me in the last discussion, but we did not manage to find that female leopard, although I definitely saw her, promise. We wanted to provide you with another cat on Catterday, and now we found tracks of a male coming from Chitwa into Torchwood, but it's not very clear where he might have gone to. Came down towards the Milwanini drainage, so we're just sort of scratching around, see if we can pick up on any sign. It might be Sibuyi's young boy. It's hard to say, really. We just do a little move around here. We'll probably end up going towards Torchwood or Port Ledwood Dam. See what's happening over there. Bobby, I think they can. We saw animals in Sri Lanka back when the tsunami hit many years ago. The animals pre the tsunami, they all went up the mountain. They all went uphill. So I'm pretty sure animals are able to detect weather patterns. There was a story, I think, came from Londolozi, if I'm not mistaken, a couple of years ago when there was a massive lightning storm. A few hippos got electrocuted, but the crocodiles managed to get away. They moved out the water. They sort of knew, ooh, something is coming. And I think all of us, if we really, really focus on what's going on around us, we can sense the shift. I mean, there's a huge barometric change in atmospheric pressure that happens.
And you could feel that shift coming if you tuned into it. Like yesterday afternoon, it was just still. There was an obvious stillness to it. And now what we're feeling is a little ominousness coming in. There's heat, and then there's some chill, and then there's some heat, and then there's some chill. So definitely if you're cognizant to those sorts of things, you start picking up on it. I don't know, many people out there who've got some old injuries will say, oh, I can tell there's bad weather coming. I can feel it in my knee or my shoulder. How many of you have got that ability? Now, what is it that you're feeling? You're feeling an injury. How is an injury telling you that there's a change? There's clearly a pressure change, and we all understand pressure, don't we? If you've been on an airplane for a long period of time, you actually have to wear socks to keep your the blood from pooling in your feet. But also in your ears. What do we do when we're descending in the airplane? We have to suck sweets. You give children sweets to suck because it helps with the pressure change in the ears. So our bodies are very adapted to understanding these things. And so I think animals are as well. But out here, the weather, it just becomes rainy, sunny, and I think they just go with the flow. There's not too much they can do about it. Weather's coming. I might as well get some food in the belly before it comes. But definitely when it rains, you'll notice many of the hooved animals move up to higher ground where it's less chance of them being able to slip in the mud or get stuck in the mud. They don't like the muddy ground. It makes it a bit easier for them to get caught. And that's probably those that decided to stay in the mud, well, they got stuck in the mud and eaten. That's just a thought anyway, but you do see it. Animals do move in relation to weather. Cows apparently lie down before rain. In the UK, though, cows seem to be lying down all the time. But definitely in Africa, you'll see the cows lie down. It's a precursor to the rainfall event. Okay, well, we're going to just scratch around, go around this road towards the north and see if we can pick up on any further sign of this young male leopard.
Well, good luck, Steve. Hopefully you find your leopardess that's given you the slipper. It sounds like a Tundi maneuver, if I'm honest. We've come back around the branch, just trying to make sure that we can actually see her face, but she keeps kind of moving and changing positions as we've been discussing. So yeah, we'll just sit here and enjoy her for a little bit and enjoy the sounds of nature. Isn't she magnificent? Those eyes are just something else, particularly when she kind of stares out and the light catches them. Hello, beautiful girl. All right, well, we're going to continue staying with her. Hopefully she'll continue to stay up in the tree for us.
Hello, everybody. Well, we caught up with another giraffe. Almost looks like the same fellow we saw before. It's hard to tell, though. Definitely a big male. Very strong back. Very interested in you, Paul. With his recruitment of oxpeckers.
Last station, say again.
Wonder sometimes who is the tourist when you find giraffe. Hello, Langer. You want to know if giraffe is susceptible to being struck by lightning in comparison to who, I suppose? I mean, lightning is a reality out here, and lightning strikes tall objects and it strikes tall trees. So I've never found a giraffe that's been hit by lightning. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. And when Noelle was here a few years ago, she found a daycare that got hit by lightning. So I think it's all about being in the wrong place at the wrong time. If you are sheltering under a tall tree, you do have the potential to invoke the wrath of a lightning strike. But I've never encountered a giraffe being hit by lightning. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. So I don't know what the criteria is. I mean, they are very tall animals, so you'd think they probably are more susceptible. But if it was a big issue, it would have affected the species as a whole over a long time, because giraffe in general have been around and been doing what they're doing for a long time. So I suppose every now and again, certain individuals of all species have the potential to be hit by lightning. It's a wise old fellow, this one. Go about your breakfast. Sorry for interrupting. It's a good question, Maggie. A lot of age questions coming through at the moment. A fully grown, giraffe live up to 28 to 29 years old. So generally we would just look at size. So a big male giraffe, I mean, they only get to a certain size and then they stop growing. But what I look for on giraffe is that forehead, and the more knobbly and more calcified the bones on the forehead, generally the older the individual is. The more pale the skin around the face, the more scars on the body, and the more war wounds, the more years it's been around. So in general, it's just a size thing. But giraffe do grow quite quickly. I mean, they're born standing at 6 feet tall, and they eventually end up being up to 18 feet, which is an enormous amount. But the males probably reach full grown in their sort of middle to late teens. So you can definitely see giraffe apart from each other in sizes. Females obviously don't get as big, but they generally do lose a bit of fur. They get a bit older, but that's very hard, in my opinion, to be able to tell you the exact age of these individuals. You can tell when they're younger, but as they get older, it becomes exceedingly more difficult. A big male in his prime. Katie, giraffes don't necessarily lie down per se, but they do tuck their legs in and sit down. If you've ever seen a goat, a sheep, or impala, or a cow or buffalo sort of sitting down on their haunches, that's what giraffe do, with their head straight up. So you call that the ruminant position. If ruminants lie down on their side, it actually can be quite dangerous for them. It can be very dangerous for them to lie for an extended period on their side, like a dog would do or a cat would do, as it influences the digestive system. So they will tuck their legs up and sit down on their haunches, but with their head straight up in the air. And that gives the legs rest, the body rest. Giraffe only really sort of do that for about 20 minutes every day, maybe more. But the ruminating animal, the process of rumination, the chewing the cud, allows the animal to actually completely lower their brain activity to that of a sort of meditating animal. And off he goes into the thickets. Now the wind has changed direction, which is interesting. The wind was coming from the east. It's now coming from the west, which is a sure sign that the system is starting to pull in. You'll often get that shift in weather and in the wind just before the actual system starts to pull in. You'll have it pushing from the east where the rain's coming from, and then suddenly you get the shift from the west, which pulls in for a bit. It often leads to some drier, warmer winds. That's in a response to the system. It's basically pulling air towards it. And then that will shift. So I reckon at some point today we're going to be seeing our cyclone coming from the west, from the east. Okay, well, we're going to move on from our giraffe. It looks like he's moved on from us. We're going to go head down towards the Mulwanini, see if we can pick up on any activity of that young male leopard that's possibly moved down into the drainage line. It's hard to say, to be sure. And it's always nice to just double check. Drainage line with a bit sandier soil might be easier to detect the movement. We've had other people check the watering hole and there's nothing going. Maggie, well, storms pulling in with wind really affect many of the animals' ability to hear. It blows the vegetation. You'll often find as the wind picks up, many of our predators start hunting actively. And it makes it very difficult for the prey animals to hear what's going on. So often we find after big storm events, many of the predators are successful. But when it's just a downpouring of rain without the wind, everybody just goes into sort of form of, oof, how much can I hide from this? Without any wind and just downward rain, predators don't have an upward hand. They can't smell, they can't hear, and they have to do everything by sight, and it becomes rather difficult. But when the wind picks up, I've seen predators get very, very active in those times. So it adds an element to the arsenal, because it takes away the wonderful hearing that the prey animals have. Then they have to rely exclusively on sight. And the wind also is swirling, so it makes them very agitated. They jump around a lot, and that makes it easier for the predators to hear them moving. And then once they lock in, we're not seeing many of these European rollers at the moment, are we? Here's one. Oh, of course. That's why we're not seeing them. They're very shy. They're very shy. Okay, well, we're going to stop in a moment, have a little look, see down in the drainage line here. In the meantime, send you over to Twalu, Kalahari, see what they're up to.
So yeah, guys, we decided to leave those lions where they're lying. They went into a bit more of a thick spot, so to see them was a bit difficult, and they're not going to do much anymore. So we decided we're going to move on, see what else we can find, possibly bump into the rest of the Pride, or you know, the original Pride members with maybe the cubs or something like that, or just some general game would also be great at the moment. So I do think they're going to be lazy for most of the day, though, with their bellies looking like that, not even trying to necessarily hunt tonight again. So we'll have to see. But yeah, what a beautiful morning spent so far with those lions. They were just incredible, walking right next to the car and in front of us and behind us and all over the show. And like I said, great to see them doing good. So hopefully there will be a new Pride forming in Twalu. That would be epic. Jules, so lions, it depends on the type of communication that they need. If it's long distance, they'll vocalize, absolutely. Even when they have been hunting, you'll find that if they are looking for one another, let's say the hunt wasn't a success and they want to locate on one another again, you get them making these ooh, ooh contact calls. Short, but I mean, still a vocal noise that they produce to talk to one another. However, when they are close to each other, you know, with each other, you'll find them doing a lot of visual communications to just display their emotions, either showing their teeth or pulling their ears flat or you know, flicking their tail, those types of things, that growling as well, but talking more about the visual communication. That's things that they'll do to convey their emotion at that point, if they're a little irritated or if they want the other one to stop lying on top of him or things like that. Typically the ears, the tail, and then the teeth, that's the major parts that you need to look for when the lions talk to each other visually. Movement of the ears, tip of the tail, and then if they show teeth, obviously you know that's a bad sign. For if it's showing towards you, then you know you are maybe a little bit too close, or they've grown tired of your presence, or those types of things. But yeah, you'll also find them touching each other quite a bit, you know, rubbing their heads against one another, cleaning each other, those types of things, which is not necessarily communication, but it is also a way of them reassuring the social bond that they've got between one another. But I would say without a doubt, the most common way of communication for them, especially over long distances, is that beautiful vocalization that we know lions can make. And even over shorter distances as well, that contact calling. Definitely, you'll even find them while they are, you know, lying next to one another and maybe playing or so, you'll find that almost that contact call like sound, that ooh, ooh, the whole time when they talk to each other. So there's quite a bit of vocalization involved when communicating with each other, but also a lot of visual communication, body language, you know. So that's the main ways of them communicating. Also then, you know, when you want to go a little bit more in depth, they will then also communicate chemically. You know, if there's a female that wants the males to wake up and smell the coffee or realize that she's going into estrus, that is then a way of them communicating as well, by urinating everywhere and scent marking and doing all of those things. That's how the males will pick up that the females is in estrus. Also, the males will go and mark females as well, but mostly the males will go and mark their territories with either feces or urine, all along the boundary and within the territory. So they'll communicate chemically like that as well. So a whole array of communication systems, but definitely between Pride members, vocally they'll communicate over long distances, and then visually when they are with one another. But yeah, guys, we're going to move on, see what else we can find. We're going to send you over to Tristan so long, okay?
As you can see, we've still got Tlalamba. She's walking down the road straight towards us at the moment. She's being very kind and being in the road itself and not actually kind of walking through the thickets, which is a surprise with her. She generally is a cat that likes to kind of use the thickets rather than the road. Just try and give her as much space as possible. There's another vehicle that's just joined us, so I'm going to let them go past and enjoy because they haven't had much time with her, and she came down the tree as they arrived, which I feel really bad about. So I want them to at least get some chance with her, to be able to spend a bit of time. Ultimately out here, it's always about just helping one another out. And so, letting everybody get a chance to see the cats is a huge part of it. You never know when somebody is going to help you when it comes to finding an animal. And if you're not very nice to them, then they're not going to go out of their way to be nice to you. It's just human decency, really. If everyone kind of practiced a little bit more of that, I think the world itself would be a fight in many ways. Anyway, all of that, Tlalamba, I think, has gone down in towards the Mulawati. This section of the Mulawati is still closed, so we will not be following her here. I'm afraid that is all she wrote for our time with Tlalamba. We were lucky enough to at least spend a good section of our morning with her, so, we can't grumble too much. I can just see the back of her disappearing through this grass. But that's the way it goes. It's the way the cookie crumbles. Is that sometimes, you can't follow them all the time. I'm just trying to see if she's going to walk parallel with us before I go. Or if she's going to go down into the Mulawati. No, it looks like she's heading straight to the Mulawati. All right, so we're going to leave her there. Let's go bumble about and see what else we can go and find.
Have you been watching Wild Earth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. Wild Earth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live Wild Earth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
There we go. First sighting of the baby meerkat. Oh my goodness. How cute is that? Look, hear no evil, see no evil, do no evil. There they go.
Tune into Wild Earth every single day. It's in your nature. Our first Wild Earth Explorers competition has closed. And we have a winner. Congratulations to Chantal Sleep from Benoni in South Africa.
I felt totally overwhelmed for winning this prize. I will be taking my son with me, and I can't wait to share this experience with him.
Chantal and her son have won a behind-the-scenes Wild Earth experience at the magnificent and beyond Ngala tented safari camp. The prize includes a 3-night stay and a chance to sleep out in the unique Ngala treehouse.
I would like to thank Wild Earth for making this dream come true, and I encourage everybody to subscribe, to become an explorer, and stand the chance to win these amazing prizes, and so much more.
For this month, we have a brand new prize. You could be jetting off to Twalu in the Kalahari for a 3-night stay at the luxurious Motsi Lodge. Open to all Wild Earth explorers who have signed up before the end of January 2021. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, I'm Damon, and I come to you live every day from and beyond Pinda Private Game Reserve here in South Africa. I think the most underrated wild animal is the buffalo, and I think many people want to see them because they're a member of the Big Five. But then once it's ticked off the list, it's on to go and look for things like big cats or herds of elephants.
It's quite a sensory overload, taking in their smell and the sounds of them moving around you.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, I found tracks of that male heading straight up the Mulwanini. It started getting very thick. So we're just going to drive around, see if we can get an access point. There's a little pan system just over here. As I said, someone's checked the watering hole and there's nothing but a little pan system on the rocks that we've had Thandi and her cub at before. Actually had her tracks coming down from the day before that, and his tracks going north, so quite fresh. They seem to be very fresh. But I don't know this area that intricately well, but there's not too much of an access road-wise into here. So there's a crossing coming up. Hang on a second. Go ahead. Follow them about 200 meters, Charles, and then I stopped. So I'm just going to drive around, see if I can get any access. Okay, so Charles, one of the landowners from Buffelshoek, is in the area giving us a hand. But that male could have come out, he could be in the drainage. You never know. But the access is just coming up over here. I'm not sure if we're going to have great signal if we go in there, but we could try. Seapaw leopards will just hang out wherever. So if it's raining, they'll just find themselves under a bush and sort of cover their face with their paws, but there's really nothing they can do. Every now and again, lodges have found leopards on their porches, but the leopard's not deliberately doing that to just hang out on the porch. They just happen to be there sometimes. But all the animals out here, all the wildlife, generally, they just hang out exactly where it is that they are. And you don't often find too much movement in the rain. Try and stay as dry as possible. Aardvarks, porcupine, honey badger, and the like, they will go into burrows in the ground, same as warthogs. But then many of those animals also risk being drowned if there's enormous amounts of rain. Warthogs that breed this time of year actually are seriously susceptible to flooding. Not the adults, but the piglets. So heavy rains and flooding will affect the breeding success of warthog. Okay, the rocks are just down here. And just pop down there. Signal's still good, that's great to hear. We've had Thandi and a cub down here, as I said. But right down in the drainage might not work. We'll see. I heard some birds shouting on my way through. Bearing in mind, when you track a male leopard, sorry about that, Mpo. When you track a male leopard, they can walk extremely far. They can, but they can also go quite close. So it actually looked like there were two tracks. So he might have been in already and come back at one point, which is often an indication of an animal that's gone to drink. But there's plenty of water around, so to go too far is a bit counterproductive. Okay, here's the little pan system on the right and the left. It's worth a little look. Okay, let's just stop here for a minute and have a listen, and then I'll show you on the map where we are. And so we had the tracks on Gowrie Main cutting through towards Lion Tree Road, and then we lost them somewhere here. And then I followed them in the drainage for a little while. We're now over here, just having a look at the access, see if he's maybe come out. But this is when we need to look in the trees, when we need some animals to shout, because when the bush is as dense as it is here, it could be very tricky to find some animals. But and Beyond Ngala hasn't had difficulty. They found some animals just for you.
Welcome back to And Beyond Ngala. So it's been a very nice cool morning for us. We've been struggling with a few signal issues, but we have come down into the riverbed and found a massive breeding herd of elephants having the best time in the sandy riverbed. You can see a lot of the youngsters here are lying down sleeping, and the one on the far left that was sucking its trunk there a second ago has been playing so beautifully. You can see they're all having a nice rest. Every now and then you'll see them moving. And actually there's two very, very little ones as well that are almost in amongst these that are sleeping. That every now and then you'll see them jumping on top of each other. They're standing underneath that teenage elephant, and you can just see movement underneath its legs. And that's two tiny little babies playing. And at the moment, I think this herd is around 100 or so elephants. Everywhere that I look, I can see elephants at the moment, which is absolutely wonderful. Oh, we've just had a teenager fall flat on its side there. So this is really, really good to see, because usually it's so hot by this point in the day that the elephants are off in the shade feeding. So it's not often that the youngsters get to really play and appreciate the riverbed at this time of the day. And you can really see that all of them are loving it. They're having a good time. This one's struggling to get up. Almost got it. Oh, it's given up. Well, there we go. You can see it's quite an affair for an elephant to try and stand up. So you can imagine now why the adults can't do this so easily. But there's a whole lot of babies around. And what's actually a bit concerning for us here at the moment, as wonderful as it is to see this is the last place we saw one of the Birmingham lionesses with her tiny newborn cubs. And we've been seeing her tracks coming in and out of these bushes, and actually just on the bank behind those elephants was her last known den site, and I found her tracks going in there just this morning. And exactly where that elephant is feeding, this is the last place that we saw her with the little ones. So I don't think she's here at the moment. Maybe she's left the cubs here unattended and she went hunting or went to find the rest of the pride. But we're not sure exactly what is happening, because the elephants should not be this relaxed if there were a lion here. Especially with so many little calves relaxing and having such a good time. Oh, I love that noise. I'm trying to get up. So at that age, oh wow, there's two very tiny ones. At that age, none of them are very capable of using their trunks yet. They're all still learning. This little one's going down on its nose in the sand. So there you can see it's probably trying to pick up some sand with its trunk, but it just can't seem to get the hang of wrapping its trunk around something and flicking it back. Whoa, down. So there's actually almost nothing I enjoy more than watching very young elephant calves playing and learning how to use that trunk. Imagine trying to learn how to operate 100,000 muscles into something that long. That's key to survival. It takes them months. Nina, some adult elephants do lie down occasionally. If they do find a spot, they might try to lie down, but it doesn't happen often. Usually what they would do when they rest is they might lean up against a tree or maybe even a tall termite mound. It's very, very hard. It's very hard for elephants to get up off the ground. Adults are just a bit too heavy. Sure, we've got one very grumpy and vocal little one. This is incredible. We've got elephants playing literally all around us in the riverbed. What a few of the adults actually did earlier was they came down and had a bit of a dust bath. But they actually have started almost digging for water on the other side of the river where we couldn't see them properly. Oh. So it's a little bit of a play fight and a greeting happening. Those might even be siblings. The one on the left may be closer to 5 years old and the one on the right still very young, less than a month old. And it's amazing to see that all of these youngsters are trying really, really hard to pick that sand up, and it's just not working yet. They've got two little tips on the end of the trunk that almost look like fingers. And that's what they've got to try and figure out how to use to pick up something as small as a peanut. So it's very sweet when they're lying down and playing. Yes, this absolutely does put a smile on your face, Ananda. See how when they're lying down, everybody wants to be around the little ones and play. And all of a sudden, it's like the matriarch has made a decision, and everybody wants to run along now across the riverbed. They've decided where they want to go. And so now playtime is over, everybody start moving. And it's almost like a parade, everybody coming in together. The little ones have a lot of energy, so they're not trumpeting because of anything else in particular. They're actually just trumpeting because they've got a lot of energy this morning. I'm actually going to move for you so that you can see all of them standing together. We've got another set coming in front of us. This is awesome. This definitely puts a massive smile on the face. So these bushes in front of me here, this is where we saw that lioness of the youngsters. And we don't know where she's gone. Okay. Try and reposition you here. There we go. So you can see there's a lot of storm clouds coming in as well. And there's literally elephants on both banks of the riverbed at the moment. And it's almost like, okay, these ones decided let's cross the river, and then they decided, okay, let's stop. But I found it amazing how they've put the littlest ones, all the tiny calves, into the middle of this bunch of elephants. We've got a teenager going down on its knees there now, wanting to lie down. So it's nice to see that even some of the older elephants appreciate the sand and the feel of it underneath their skin and their bodies. So this is typical playtime for young elephants. They climb all over each other. They rub against each other. And here, when they're doing this, it doesn't matter if they're male or female, if they're related or not. There's one actually lying with its head on that teenager now. Have a look at that. What I really love about this particular scene at the moment, which is very stark, is how the tusks, the few that have some small tusks, how those tusks are really sticking out. Oh, little one. There's two little ones there. I didn't even see the second one. So well hidden. You can actually see one or two of them have still got a whole lot of sand all over them from throwing it on themselves. And even though they're kind of starting to play again. Oh, you can see the toenails on that baby. Oh, that's cute. You can see on the front feet those very clear toenails on this little one. That shows you how young it is, because as they get older, those feet get darker and the toenails get darker. They are having a very good time together. They almost look a little bit clumsy still at this age. Look at that tiny little trunk. Now we've got quite a few teenagers lying around. What may have actually happened here is I wouldn't actually be surprised if the elephants that crossed into the riverbed now behind me are from a different herd. And so maybe these ones saw them coming and just decided, let's tighten the group a little bit, keep the baby safe until they know more or less what the vibe is or the feeling is from the other herd. But we've got so many babies lying down, it's actually tough to see the adults' legs, and it's tough to tell the elephants apart at this point. It's one giant ball of elephants. The two little ones on the right are still having a nice play session together, rubbing against each other. And the smallest one is actually trying to pick up some sand there at the moment. It's not going very well. You can imagine it must be exhausting for these little ones to keep up with the parents all day that are walking massive distances. And so when they get a chance like this to relax when the adults are actually still for a while, they take full advantage. So we've even got a few. It looks like they might come down to join. There's elephants coming down from almost every bank at the moment. It's amazing that majority of them are standing actually with their backs to the wind. The wind is coming from the elephants towards me. But I guess their trunk is so versatile and so flexible and so good that they wouldn't really need to stand facing into the wind. That adult is trying to sniff the little baby. It actually had its tail just now. Where is it going? Backing up again. This one looks like it's wanting to settle. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous little playful herd. And I just think it's incredible how, look at that, it's just one pile of youngsters all sitting together. That little one on the right seems to have the most personality at this point, and I think it just has a bit more energy than the others. But it's lovely to see how relaxed they are around us. It just shows you, I think there's a very bad misconception about elephants. And if you respect them and give them their space, they respect us. And you can see it here. Elephants won't let the little ones lie down and relax and play if they're feeling at all like they could be a threat. And they're certainly taking advantage and lying down as much as they can. Actually looks like a lot of fun. You almost want to go and do it yourself. Have a roll around in the sand. This female's throwing sand on herself and the little baby's just getting some of the splatter in its face. Thank you, I agree. I think this is the sighting of the morning. It's not often we get to see elephants this playful and relaxed. And so many babies in one herd as well. It's blowing my mind how many youngsters there are here. It's a very big herd. That one's too lazy to get up, so it's throwing sand on itself while lying down. Oh. I don't know if you can hear the bubbling sounds in the background, but quite a few of these elephants have some gas. And it certainly makes an impact. I think they can probably feel that weather coming a lot better than we can. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're actually taking advantage before that weather comes in, you know, really enjoying a little bit of quiet time in the riverbed, feeling that coolness. Look at that little one. So one of my favorite things about those tiny calves is actually the size of the trunk. If you have a look at an adult's trunk, it's really long, it's really thick. But a little one's trunk, a tiny calf's trunk, is almost miniature. It's not thick because the muscles haven't developed as much. I think it's one of the cutest things, but they look like they're all starting to move off now, so I'll...
Well, unfortunately, no more sign of Tlalamba. We've waited around, we sat patiently just kind of listening, and we heard lots of alarm calls from in that sector, in the Mulawati itself. But like I say, that little section of the Mulawati is not the section we normally drive. That's a kind of old two-track where Tlalamba used to den, and so that's not open yet, which is perfectly fine. It's quite wet down there. So I find that that's an area where, you know, you just got to kind of sometimes say, we had a good run with her, we enjoyed the sighting, and she's off to do her own thing. I find that sometimes you can't sweat the small stuff, and when you've had as good a sighting as we had, you may just be thankful that you had it, rather than worry too much about losing her. It's summer after all, and we are going to lose the odd sighting due to the tall grass, thickets and seep lines that are running, and that's really okay. We're doing just fine sightings wise. In fact, we've been spoiled absolutely rotten. I was having a conversation now with somebody and just saying that considering the conditions and the way things are, we've had an absolutely bumper run of animals, and not just leopards. I mean, leopards have been particularly good, but I mean, we've had lions, we've had dogs, we've had great elephant sightings. There was buffalo that came through yesterday. I mean, we didn't see them, but they're here. So, you know, there's a lot going on. You know, in the hyena den, we have been thoroughly spoiled. Of late, and long may it continue. Hopefully, old cyclone decides not to disrupt things too much. Although tomorrow sounds like a fairly sizable amount of rain. Right, well, we're going to just bumble along. I might just kind of pop towards the hyena den, but I don't think we have enough time, so I'll do that this evening. So we'll probably just start making our way home. Who knows what the road has in store for us. Hopefully there'll be a big Ellie bull somewhere around. It'll be a nice way to finish things up for this morning, especially if he's feeding on a couple of marooners.
So this is the other part of the herd here at And Beyond Ngala, and they are relaxing on the bank. They've just crossed over, and there's a tiny little baby struggling to get up on the left. So at the moment, this, I think, was the reason why the other elephants started kind of bunching together. And I think that was because this herd came in and crossed over. It might be part of a bigger herd, maybe all of them together. But they seem to all be quite relaxed now. In fact, the elephants that we saw in the riverbed have all crossed up and over the bank. We can't see a single one anymore, but we can see this whole other half of the herd. And it's actually very special for me this morning because it's not often that I get to experience that many elephants, and I think there were at least 100 elephants all around us in the riverbed, on the banks, and moving up and down. You can see it's really nice and peaceful down here. All that's moving around these elephants is just a few swallows. And yes, they are really standing out against that green background, and then that sharp white tusk that you can see on a few elephants. It really is absolutely beautiful in this stretch of the river. And it's always such a privilege, actually, to spend time with elephants that are so relaxed. It's one of those animals that really makes you realize how small we are and how incredible it can be. But this has definitely been, I think, one of my favorite memories of elephants ever. One of my favorite sightings, seeing all of those babies all together. Absolutely beautiful. They almost look like they're wanting to start moving up the bank again, dispersing slowly, struggling to get up the bank on the left there. So I'm really hoping these elephants will be around again throughout the day and a bit this afternoon with this weather coming in. What an absolute privilege to be able to share this sighting with you this morning. But we've had a really fantastic morning all around. A lot of cats and predators. Please join us again this afternoon. We will be delighted to share our magic of the bush with you.